Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto has permanent Sage mode part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The sun slowly set over Konohagakure no Sato, one of the 5 great shinobi villages. While most businesses were locking their doors for the night, one person was not so lucky. In the tall tower near the center of the village, the 5th Hokage, Tsunade Senju, sat behind her desk, a large pile of paperwork next to her. She sighed and ran a hand through her long blonde hair, knowing she had brought this on herself. Despite what many people thought, being Hokage didn't mean day after day of endless paperwork. Even with all the extra paperwork the Suna/Oto invasion had created, on top of the paperwork generated by the hospital, she still found time to train her new apprentice Sakura Haruno and still have an hour or two to herself every day. The endless paperwork was just an easy excuse for when she didn't want to have to deal with somebody. However, over the last few days she had slacked off a bit, resulting in her current predicament. She sighed once again as she dated her signature. "Brat, you better hurry up and get back here," she muttered to herself. "I'm getting tired of waiting for you to take this job from me." The reason for her recent slacking was her preparing for the return of the #1 hyperactive knucklehead ninja of Konoha. The one who had snapped her out of her decades-long depression following the deaths of her brother and lover in the Second Shinobi World War. The Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, the last known member of the Uzumaki clan, and self-proclaimed 6th Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki. "You know, when you put it that way, you'll probably scare the brat away," a voice behind her said. Tsunade looked over her shoulder and saw someone she wasn't expecting for a few more days. It was her teammate, the legendary Toad Sage Jiraiya. Noticing the glare she was giving him, his dopey grin got bigger. "Come on, Tsunade. I don't see you for 3 years and the first thing you do is glare at me?" Jiraiya pouted. "I thought we had something special." Tsunade rolled her eyes but couldn't herself from smiling. "Welcome back," she said before going back to filling out paperwork. "You should have let me know you were coming back early. Sakura will be disappointed she didn't get to meet Naruto as soon as he got back." Jiraiya moved to sit on the couch, but before he could get comfortable, Tsunade asked the one question he had been hoping to put off. "Speaking of which, where is Naruto?" Trying to figure out how to word it so Tsunade wouldn't kill him, he decided to just rip the band-aid off. Putting on his best smile, he happily declared, "No idea. Honestly, I haven't seen him in over a year." Seeing Tsunade freeze up, he realized that his efforts to sound optimistic made him sound a little too enthusiastic about not knowing Naruto's whereabouts. Before he could start explaining, Tsunade snapped the pen she was writing with and slowly stood up. "Jiraiya," she said in the evilest tone he had ever heard, "you have exactly 3 seconds to start explaining why Naruto isn't with you, or I will unleash a hell that will make Orochimaru's experiments look merciful." She began slowly cracking her knuckles while Jiraiya began panicking. Wait, he begged. The toads were watching over him the whole time. He was never in any danger. "Look!" Jiraiya quickly flew through the hand seals for the summoning technique. In a puff of smoke, a small toad, with large eyebrows wearing a dark cape, appeared. Before he even realized where he was, Jiraiya grabbed him and held him in front of Tsunade like a shield. "Go on, Fukasaku. Tell Tsunade what Naruto's been up to. Tell her he's fine. Go on." Fukasaku quickly separated himself from Jiraiya and jumped onto Tsunade's shoulder. "Please refrain from using me as a shield in the future," he said as he dusted himself off. "Especially since I told you it was a bad idea to wait this long to tell her." Fukasaku turned and hopped onto Tsunade's desk. "That aside," he said as he began clearing some space, "I have some papers that Naruto wanted me to pass on to you once he got back. I don't see any harm in giving them to you a few days early. And Naruto's fine." Satisfied that Tsunade's desk was cleared enough, he turned back to his summoner, and the enraged medic still glaring at him. "I shall return momentarily," he said with a bow before reverse summoning himself. "See?" Jiraiya said nervously, "Naruto's fine. You can stop trying to kill me with your eyes now." "Right. Tsunade?" The furious Hokage continued glaring for a moment before she turned and walked back to her desk. "Very well," she calmly started, "you've proven that Naruto isn't in any danger. So I can't be mad at you for that." She sat down and pulled a bottle of sake out of one of the drawers. "Now for my next question." Tsunade opened the bottle and swig, as Jiraiya nervously sat in the chair in front of her desk, knowing she probably didn't want him lounging on the couch right now. Tsunade took several deep breaths before looking at her teammate. "Jiraiya, why the hell did you let Naruto go running off in the first place?" "Well, it was right after Naruto's 15th birthday. He began. Naruto had gone into the woods to train and didn't come back that night. It wouldn't have been the first time he spent all night training, so I didn't think much of it. But the next morning he was back at camp, just staring at the fire with this dead look in his eyes. I tried to get his attention, but he just ignored me. Right as I was getting worried, he suddenly got this really determined look in his eyes and asked if he could spend the last year of the trip training by himself. He said he would have the toads with him if things got too dangerous, and he really needed to do this. After seeing that look in his eyes, I agreed, but told him that if he wasn't learning anything, the toads would summon him back to me. I didn't hear anything from them, so I assumed everything was going well. Before Tsunade could begin lecturing him on how irresponsible it was to just hope the toads could summon Naruto away from danger, Fukasaku reappeared with a haphazard pile of scrolls and papers. Last time I get Gamakichi to keep track of paperwork, he muttered to himself. Sorry about the disorganization, but I think I can find the important ones. He began looking through the papers while Jiraiya and Tsunade wondered what exactly Naruto did to generate this much paperwork. Fukasaku picked up a scroll and gave it to Tsunade. This details the origins of chakra and the first chakra users, he said. Before Tsunade could ask any questions, Fukasaku held up a small folder with a stack of papers inside. Here's a formal request from the leaders of Amagekyo for a political alliance between the two villages. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade stared at Fukasaku with their jaws on the ground. Naruto had somehow convinced one of the most paranoid and isolated hidden villages to open up to outsiders. Sure, there were rumors that Hanzo had been overthrown, but since the borders remained closed, nobody had been able to verify them. Fukasaku, Tsunade began, how exactly did Naruto come in contact with the leaders of AIM? Walking into a hidden village was one thing. Meeting up with the top ninja was another. Fukasaku picked up a stack of papers stapled together and handed it to Tsunade. He heard a rumor that the leader of Akatsuki was in AIM and decided to investigate. Jiraiya and Tsunade's eyes popped out of their heads. The leader's girlfriend, I'm assuming, approached him and they hit it off. One thing led to another in him, and those two are real good friends now. Speaking of which, Akatsuki has been disbanded and those are the profiles of all its former members. Jiraiya quickly grabbed the papers from Tsunade's hand while she was too stunned to stop him. While Jiraiya was comparing Naruto's notes with the information he had gathered over the last year, Fukasaku grabbed a folder that looked similar to the first, only bigger. Here's a request by the Mizukage for an alliance between Konoha and Kiri. Once again Tsunade's jaw hit the floor. You're telling me the brat who refers to the Hokage as Granny somehow managed to convince two of the most isolated hidden villages to open their borders to outsiders? Tsunade asked. Fukasaku just smiled at her. You of all people should know of his ability to positively influence people. Tsunade blushed while Jiraiya, who had finished looking over the files of the ex-Akatsuki members, laughed. Before Tsunade could come up with a response, Fukasaku handed her another paper. Naruto has requested that you make the records of Itachi Uchiha's final mission public. Jiraiya was confused as to why Naruto would ask for that, before he noticed Tsunade seemed very nervous. Before he could ask, Fukasaku handed him another stack of papers stapled together. There's the information on almost all the Jinchuriki. Who they are, where they are, their abilities. All that stuff. Jiraiya began flipping through the files and saw that they were all rather thorough. How exactly did he get this information? He asked. The Jinchuriki are some of the most well-guarded secrets in a hidden village. Also, why is there no info on the standby host? Fukasaku looked up from flipping through papers. Well, for the most part, he just asked them. Most of the last year was spent meeting with all the other Jinchuriki. Of course, some leaders weren't very happy when they learned a Konoha ninja was befriending their weapons. But for the most part they all like him. Once again Jiraiya's jaw hit the floor. As for the Sanbai, the fourth Mizukage was killed and Naruto wants to keep the new Jinchuriki a secret for now. Fukasaku held up two more sheets of paper, once again cutting off the questions the two Sannin had. These are the last two important things. They're a pair of techniques that Naruto created. Or rather, he improved existing techniques in ways only he could. Tsunade and Jiraiya raised their eyebrows. The first is a healing technique that uses large amounts on yang chakra to generate organs from nothing. The other is a method of using yang chakra to complete the Edo Tensei. Jiraiya and Tsunade stared blankly for a few seconds before they exploded into a series of questions. Unable to understand a thing they were saying, Fukasaku took a deep breath. Shut up. The two ninjas stopped, if only because they were shocked such a small toad could be so loud. If you two have any questions, you can just ask Naruto yourselves. He should be back tomorrow with his new teammates. Now if you'll excuse me, Shima will be rather upset with me if I miss dinner. With that, Fukasaku reverse summoned himself back home. Jiraiya and Tsunade still had a million questions, but as they looked at each other, they had the same thought. New teammates? Meanwhile in the forest outside Konoha, a trio of teens sat around a small campfire. The first one was a blonde boy with 3 whisker marks on each cheek, wearing a black and orange shirt and pants with a large red jacket. He was sitting in a meditative stance, carefully taking in everything in the environment around him. On his right was a very feminine black-haired boy, wearing a bright pink sleeveless kimono. He was very carefully cleaning an absolutely massive sword, with a blade almost as long as he was tall. Next to them, the only girl in their group tended to the fire while stealing glances at the black-haired boy. She had lopsided red hair and deep red eyes behind her glasses. All three of them were looking forward to reaching Konoha tomorrow. Hopefully they would be able to enjoy the peace for just a little before the coming war finally erupted. Jiraiya and Tsunade paced restlessly back and forth in front of the main gates of Konoha. Much like Fukasaku had said, most of what was left of the pile had been random junk, mostly receipts that Tsunade really didn't hope he expected her to pay back. A training trip was not a mission. Besides that, there were lots of pamphlets for random tourist destinations around the elemental nations, and what looked like lots of random journal entries, very few of which had anything interesting or important to say. It was slightly worrying that somebody who knew as much classified information as Naruto could still act so ditzy. "Where the hell is he?" she yelled, startling the gate guards who had been nodding off. Wanting to get answers out of Naruto as soon as possible, she had shown up to the gates at dawn. Several hours later, and there was no sign of Naruto or his mysterious new team. "Now Tsunade," Jiraiya said, ignoring her agitated glare. "He said he'd be back today. He never gave a time. Just be patient and you'll get your answers. And hopefully I can get some answers of my own," he thought. Last night when he asked Tsunade why Naruto was interested in Itachi's final mission, she had become very evasive and refused to answer him. He was shocked when he pressed her for answers, and she threatened to have him locked up if he didn't back off. Something big was going on, and he was determined to find out what. The sound of laughter pulled Jiraiya from his thoughts. Looking down the road, he saw 3 people approaching. Jiraiya pulled out his spyglass and was pleased to see that Naruto was finally back home. Aside from growing a few inches and adding a long red jacket to his outfit, he looked exactly the same as he did when they had parted ways a year ago. Now to get a look at these new teammates of his. Looking to Naruto's right, he saw the source of the laughter. It was a girl about Naruto's age with lopsided red hair and glasses. She was wearing a purple button-up shirt that was barely buttoned, showing a bit of cleavage and her toned stomach. Her long legs were also on display thanks to the shorts she was wearing. "Not bad, kid," Jiraiya thought with a perverted grin. "Now let's see the other one." Looking to Naruto's left, he was very pleased to see another girl about Naruto's age, who seemed to be the butt of whatever the redhead was laughing at, judging by the angry blush on her face. She had long black hair and was wearing a sleeveless pink kimono that showed off her strong arms, presumably gained from swinging the massive sword strapped to her back. All in all, she was rather cute, in an oddly boyish sort of way. "Hey! Pervy Sage! Granny Tsunade! I'm back!" The 2 Sannin groaned at hearing their old nicknames again. The 3 teens stopped in front of the village leader and stood at attention. "Naruto Uzumaki reporting for duty. These are my friends Haku," the brunette gave a polite wave, "and Karen." The redhead adjusted her glass and nodded. "So did you get my letters?" "Yes, I did," Tsunade replied as she grabbed him by the jacket. "And there's the little matter of you running your mouth about classified missions that we need to talk about. My office, now." Before Naruto could respond, she dragged him down the street kicking and screaming. "Well," Jiraiya said, "I doubt that was the welcome he was expecting." He turned and looked at the 2 newcomers who were laughing at their friend's unpleasant situation. So the teens stopped laughing and looked at the sage. "Exactly how close are you ladies with Naruto?" he asked as he pulled out his notepad. Haku's blush returned, as did Karen's laughter. Suddenly Karen pulled Haku into a tight hug. "I hate to break it to you," she said, "but the 2 of us are seeing each other exclusively." She punctuated his sentence by kissing Haku on the cheek. Jiraiya began giggling and writing before a depressing thought occurred to him. "So you're telling me after all this time Naruto is still completely clueless when it comes to the ladies?" he asked with a sigh. Haku and Karen looked at each other before they exploded into laughter. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. "What's so funny?" "You'll have to ask Naruto since it's his story to tell, but let's just say you couldn't be more wrong," Haku said with a laugh. "Come on, Karen. I'm sure Lady Tsunade will have some questions for us as well." With that, the 2 teens walked after Naruto and Tsunade while Jiraiya began thinking up ideas for his next book, involving 2 wandering lesbians and the brave ninja warrior who captured both their hearts. By the way, Jiraiya looked over his shoulder and saw Haku giving him a grin. It was a grin he had come to fear. "I was the same grin Naruto always had right before a prank. You should know that I'm a boy." The teens then left Jiraiya standing there confused. Finally his brain pieced together what it just learned and neatly summarized his thoughts. "What the hell? Start talking, brat," Tsunade said as she paced in her office. "How do you know about Itachi's last mission, and why do you want to go announcing it to the whole world?" Despite giving Naruto her best glare, she could tell he had grown as a ninja by the glare he was giving back. Maybe because he's a hero and right now the entire world is treating him like a monster for sacrificing everything in his life to keep his home safe even though there's absolutely nothing left to tie him to it. That sound like a good enough reason for you? Naruto snapped, clearly not pleased with having to try to justify why a ninja shouldn't be punished for following orders. Tsunade sighed as she tried to think of a way to calm Naruto down. Sadly, if there was anyone who could sympathize with Itachi, it was Naruto. Look, Naruto, she began softly, how do you think the other villages would react if they found out we were forced to wipe out one of our most powerful clans? Or should we have just let them invade us as we recovered from a civil war? She hoped that Naruto could understand that leaders were sometimes forced to make unpleasant decisions. Naruto, however, seemed unimpressed with her answer. Please, he said sarcastically as he sat down, Kiri isn't as strong as us, and they managed to survive a civil war caused by an Uchiha just fine. Tsunade sat there shocked as Naruto gained a thoughtful look on his face. Then again, they do have all that water keeping them safe. Tsunade's eye twitched in annoyance. But there's a lot of land between Konoha and the borders. But those borders lead straight into enemy territory. What do you think, Granny? Will you focus? She snapped. Leave it to Naruto to lose focus thinking about borders while talking about a potential war. Now what's this about an Uchiha starting the civil war in Kiri? Naruto blinked a few times before he remembered what they were talking about. Oh yeah? So there was this guy, and everyone thought he died in the last war, but he didn't. But he did kind of turn into a complete and total ass. Naruto said with a frown. He pulled Kurama out of Mom, so he's pretty much responsible for ruining my life. Tsunade had no idea who Kurama was, but hearing Naruto talk about his mother was raising more questions than it was answers. Then he hypnotized the fourth Mizukage and started the bloodline purges which lead to the civil war, so he's pretty much responsible for ruining Haku's life. This caught Tsunade's interest. She had no idea Naruto's new friend had a bloodline. Now that she thought about it, she had just left two completely unknown ninja wandering around Konoha. She should probably do something about that. Oh, and let's not forget he was the one who turned Akatsuki into a terrorist organization. Tsunade rubbed her temples. Naruto hadn't even been back 5 minutes and she had a headache. Naruto, I'm going to ask some questions, she said as she reached for a bottle of sake. And you are going to give me short and simple answers that aren't going to raise a million more questions. Got it? Naruto nodded nervously. He could tell she was getting serious. Now then, who is Kurama? Is this Uchiha still a threat? And what does this have to do with Itachi? Naruto scratched his head. Well, there's really no way to answer those simply. But in order, Kurama is the Kyuubi. No, he isn't, and you don't screw with the guy leading a terrorist organization with having to screw with the second in command. Suddenly Naruto's eye widened in terror. Oh crap. I forgot to tell the pervy sage that Konan and Nagato said hello. Tsunade slammed her head into her desk. With a sigh, she sat up and looked at Naruto. Alright, fine. She groaned, we'll get back to all that later. Really, at this point she was tempted to just kick him out of her office and trust that he knew what he was doing. Just answer me this, what exactly made you want to leave in the first place? Naruto's face hardened. Well, that question's probably the easiest to answer, though it will probably take a while. Looking at the clock, he saw that it was still only 8 in the morning. Well, it started about a year ago. Naruto wiped the sweat off his forehead. He had spent the last few hours sparring with his clones. Ever since that training session where he had blacked out, Jiraiya hadn't been as strong as he had before. Sure, he could still beat Naruto with no effort, but the beatings weren't nearly as bad as they used to be. Naruto sighed and looked down at his hand. Even though Jiraiya hadn't said anything, Naruto was certain that he had lost control of the Kyuubi. He wished he understood why Jiraiya was so determined to have him use the Kyuubi's power. Was there something Jiraiya knew that he didn't? With a sigh, Naruto closed his eyes and began to focus. He didn't want to use the Kyuubi's power, but he also didn't want to accidentally kill someone close to him. Naruto felt the rush of power from the Kyuubi slowly wash over him. He slowly began to increase the power, carefully maintaining focus on his emotions. The more he used, the angrier he got. The angrier he got, the harder it was to control. A vicious cycle if there ever was one. Naruto opened his eyes and froze with horror, or at least he would have if his body wasn't moving on its own. No, 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 he thought, since he could scream it out. The veil of blood-red chakra surrounded his body, pulled him forward against his will. Why is this happening? He thought. Last time he had lost control, the last thing he heard was the Kyuubi laughing and taunting him. Now there was nothing. It was almost like the chakra itself was moving him around. Naruto could only watch as his body crawled into a small cave that was covered up by the roots of an extremely ancient-looking tree. What is this place? He thought as he crawled deeper and deeper with only the light of Kyuubi's chakra letting him see. Naruto was sure how long he crawled around in there. His body kept moving without rest, only stopping when it needed to dig where the cave was too narrow or blocked. Eventually, he reached an open room. Struggling to see in the extremely dim light, Naruto's blood ran cold when he realized that there was a mummified corpse sitting in the center of the room. To his horror, his body moved forward, reaching out to touch the mummy's head. The mummy's 3 eyes lit up and Naruto blacked out. Ugh! Now where am I? Naruto mumbled as he sat up. Looking around, he saw he was in what looked like a weird mixture of a sewer and a boiler room. Behind him was a giant cage with a seal holding it closed. How did I get inside my mind? He asked as he stood up. Before he could investigate further, a strange bubbling noise caught his attention. Looking down, he saw the water was slowly draining away. A rattling drew his attention to the walls where several pipes began falling down. Well, this is interesting. A deep voice rumbled behind Naruto. Naruto turned to see his prisoner, the 9-tailed demon fox, staring at him from behind the seal with a rather deranged grin on its face. Before Naruto could tell the fox off, like usual, it leaned its head back and slammed them into the bars of its prison. To Naruto's horror, the bars, much like the pipes on the walls, fell uselessly to the ground. Naruto slowly backed away as the fox continued to stare at him the same way a predator stares at its prey. But before Naruto could be eaten alive, another unfamiliar voice cut in. Well, Kurama, you seem to have developed a rather cross personality over the ages. Naruto turned and was shocked to see that most of his mindscape had faded into an endless white void. Floating in the middle was a man that Naruto quickly realized was the same mummy he had seen before he passed out. Though even alive, he still looked incredibly old. And what was with that third eye in the middle of his forehead? That's impossible. Naruto looked and saw the Kyuubi slowly backing away from them, a look of confusion and fear on its face. You're supposed to be dead. Naruto looked back at the man with a look of wonder. Who was this guy, and how strong was he if the Kyuubi was scared of him? Excuse me. The old man looked down at Naruto, the same peaceful expression on his face. So who exactly are you, and what are we doing in my mind? The Kyuubi growled at Naruto's disrespect while the old man simply laughed. I suppose a proper introduction is in order. He said, I am Hagoromo Otsutsuki. But I believe you have most likely only heard of me by my title, the Sage of Six Paths. Naruto nodded several times before he smiled and politely asked. Who? You idiot! Naruto froze, remembering that the giant fox monster that had almost destroyed his home was currently sitting behind him with nothing separating them. The only reason you can even call yourself a ninja is because of the desecration of the ideals of the man before you. So show some respect. Naruto stared up at the fox. While there were some big words he didn't quite understand from what he got, this guy was the very first ninja. And he must have been powerful considering the respect in the Kyuubi's voice. The few times he had heard the Kyuubi talk before, it had always just smugly taunted him before trying to take control of his body. A laugh brought his attention back to the man in front of him. While Kurama is being overly zealous in coming to my defense, he is correct, he said with a smile. I am Hagoromo Otsutsuki. I was the one who spread the ideals of Nishu, which formed the base of ninjutsu, across the world. It was through my knowledge that humanity learned to access the chakra that lay dormant within everyone. By now Naruto had little stars in his eyes. Who knew what kind of awesome ninja moves he could learn from this guy? Wow! That's amazing! He yelled, much to Kurama's annoyance. So you're the guy who discovered chakra? How'd you do that? Can you teach me to be an awesome ninja like you? Naruto then noticed that Hagoromo's smile seemed to fall a bit at his questions. Perhaps Kurama's paranoia was not as unfounded as I originally believed. Before Naruto could question what he meant, the sage continued, and no. I am neither the discoverer of chakra nor was I the first human to make extensive use of it. Chakra had long been known of by humanity, though few were able to make use of it. The first human to wield chakra as we do was my mother. Naruto clearly had not been expecting that answer. So your mother was the first ninja? Naruto asked, not noticing Hagoromo's face becoming sadder with each word. She must have been amazing. What was she like? How did she become a ninja? Naruto imagined himself as an awesome sage with his mother, as a kick-ass ninja cheering him on and supporting him. Before he could continue his fantasy, a sad sigh pulled him from his thoughts. My mother was named Kagaya Otsutsuki. Hagoromo said she was the princess of a great and powerful kingdom. Within that kingdom was a tree known as the Shinju, which bore a fruit overflowing with chakra. According to legend, eating the fruit would gift a person with a godly level of power. The people of the kingdom never ate the fruit out of fear of the potential power they may unleash. Outsiders frequently attempted to invade the kingdom in order to steal the tree's power for themselves. Eventually my mother grew weary of seeing her home repeatedly be brought to the brink of destruction. She ate the fruit herself, and became so powerful that not only was she able to stop the invasions, but she brought an end to all wars everywhere. Naruto's jaw was on the floor with amazement. If they taught stuff like this in history class, maybe he'd pay attention. Then again, maybe they did, and he slept through it. But eating the fruit changed something within her. Those who knew my mother before stated that she was kind-hearted and loving. But my entire life I knew her to be nothing but cold and distant even at the best of times. Myself and my brother were both born with incredible power, though nowhere near her level. We began teaching others to use their chakra in order to improve their lives. For some reason this enraged her, and she demanded that we cease spreading the secrets of chakra. When we refused, several disciples of ours disappeared. We eventually discovered that they had been murdered. Naruto gulped in fear. We were greatly concerned for her rapidly failing mental health. But before we could intervene, tragedy struck. One day, she observed a young man use chakra to climb a wall to deliver a letter to the woman he was smitten with. Seeing what she felt to be her godly power used for such a mundane task caused something within her to break. She hypnotized the entire kingdom and fed them to the Shinju, turning them into abominations neither man nor plant. When we confronted her, she merged herself with the Shinju, turning into a 10-tailed monstrosity that began ravaging the land, draining the latent chakra of every living thing she came across. By now Hagoromo was struggling to hold back his tears. How did you stop her? Hagoromo looked up at Naruto and saw that Naruto was clearly uncomfortable asking but was still curious. Hagoromo laughed sadly. He supposed if anyone other than him were telling the story it would sound like a fanciful tale. I sealed her chakra within myself while her body was locked within a colossal stone prison in the sky. As I neared the end of my life, I felt extra precautions were necessary. So I split her chakra into 9 fragments, and gave each of them a life of its own. In amazement, Naruto turned and looked at the giant fox behind him. I see you understand. The Biju are the result of my mother's lust for power. Their continued existence is what keeps the world safe from her wrath. Finally, Naruto asked the question that had been bothering him the entire time he was here. As interesting as this is, what does all this have to do with me? Hagoromo smiled and explained that his chakra had brought him here as a result of being his second son's incarnation well as having Kurama's chakra. He then warned Naruto about Setsu, a veil creature that Kaguya had created with the last of her power, and taught Naruto of a few ninjutsu that could stop Kaguya should Setsu's plans come to fruition. During this time he got to know Kurama, who was still a jerk, though the threats of murder and possession stopped. Eventually Hagoromo bid Naruto farewell, but not before letting Naruto know that he believed if anyone could bring peace to the world it was him. As the sage faded away and his mindscape rebuilt itself, Naruto heard someone calling his name. Looking up, he saw Jiraiya standing over him. When had he gotten back to camp? How long had he been sitting there? Remembering what Hagoromo had told him, he looked up at his teacher. Jiraiya, I think I need to spend the next year training myself. And then I spent the next year wandering around training. Tsunade nodded. Hearing that the Sage of Six Paths was real and not just a fairy tale had been very interesting. Tsunade finished her sake before looking at Naruto. Very well. She began. We'll need a full up-to-date showing of your skills. Be at training ground 7 at 3. We'll test you to see just how good you really are. Naruto looked at the clock and smiled. He still had several hours before he'd even need to start getting ready. Any questions before you leave? Naruto nervously scratched his head. Do you think maybe you could drop your henge for me? He asked. The glare Tsunade sent him told him everything. Please? I just want to try something. I promise nothing bad will happen. Tsunade gave a groan of irritation and reluctantly dropped her transformation. Naruto did his best not to cringe. She may have been in her early 50s, but without the henge so looked like she was in her 70s. So what is it you're trying to do? She asked, her tone of voice telling Naruto he was dead if this was some kind of joke. Naruto smiled and held up his hands, which were now covered in a bizarre golden flame. With a flick of his wrists, the flames extended and swallowed Tsunade up. Before she could protest, Naruto started talking. I'm sure you read all about my yang healing technique, right? Tsunade nodded. Well, I'm still working on the control part. I can't really do fine healing. I can replace an arm if you lost one. But if you broke your arm, I can make a small amount of bone to mend it. I could give you a new arm bone. But having 1 and 2 halves of a bone really isn't that good for you. Tsunade managed to avoid rolling her eyes at the statement. She was too busy feeling better than she'd felt in years. So when I first found I could do this, I read some books on biology. I thought maybe I could revitalize old cells and reverse aging. But nobody I tried it on got younger. They just had some extra chakra that made them all twitchy for a few hours. So what makes you think it will be any different for me? Tsunade asked. Of course, she wasn't complaining. She felt amazing. If this how twitchy people felt, she needed to switch to coffee. Well, your creation rebirth technique heals you by speeding up cell division. I know it's a long shot, but I'm hoping my technique will see the artificial aging has unnatural damage to fix it. Like the difference between a boulder slowly eroding over time and someone with a hammer smashing it to pieces. Naruto lowered his hands and the light around Tsunade began to fade. Now let's see how well that worked a little too well. Tsunade's eyes widened in terror as she spun to look at her reflection in the window. If that brat turned her into a kid, she was going to beat him so badly even she wouldn't be able to fix him. What the hell did you? Tsunade's complaint died in her throat. She looked more or less the same as her henge normally did. At worst, she looked a few years older. What do you mean too well? I look amazing. Well, I figured if it worked you'd look your actual age, not 20 years younger. Seeing the look of joy on her face, he decided not to question it. So training round 7 at 3, right? Tsunade nodded while continuing to check herself out. Alright, see you then. Naruto opened the door to Tsunade's office and saw Haku and Karen waiting outside. So Karen asked awkwardly, do we need to officially be allowed in? Is there something we need to sign? Can we stay here? Naruto smiled and gave her a thumbs up. Of course you can stay here, he said happily. And we can take care of the paperwork later. For now, let Tsunade enjoy her new look. Ignoring the confused looks on their faces, he grabbed their arms and dragged them away. Come on. I can't wait to introduce you to my friends. Sakura Haruno gave a bored sigh as she browsed the various shop windows. Last night an ANBU had shown up at her house with a message saying the training was cancelled today. She supposed she could meet with Ino, but until she was done with team training she had nothing to do. She wished Naruto would hurry up and get back. The past 3 years had been rather boring without him around. Hey Sakura! The kunoichi's eyes widened as the blonde she had just been thinking about ran towards her with 2 others in tow. Naruto? She asked happily, when did you get back? And who are those 2? She was slightly annoyed that Tsunade hadn't informed her that Naruto was coming back early. Naruto stopped in front of her and looked her over. Well, I'm glad to see you look just as beautiful as you did the day I left. Sakura blushed at this. And these were my teammates while I was gone. You met Haku on our mission to the Land of Waves. The girly boy gave a nervous laugh. I don't believe we were properly introduced back then, given that I was both your enemy and slightly dead. A look of realization crossed Naruto's face. And this is my girlfriend Karen. The redhead next to him waved before holding her hand out to Haku. And I believe I won the bet, she said. Haku sighed and began digging through his pockets. Seeing Sakura's confused look, Karen smiled. With how much Naruto talked about you as we traveled, we both knew he would compliment you as soon as he saw you. Haku thought he would say something stupid and make you mad. Naruto shot Haku a look as he handed some money to Karen. You do tend to make poor word choices, he said. I was expecting you to say something like you haven't changed a single bit, but you managed to surprise me. Ha ha ha, Naruto said sarcastically. I know how to talk to girls. You should know that. Haku and Karen shared a look and a snicker. So Sakura, what was it like having the Hokage as a teacher? Sakura smiled. He may be more mature, but he was still Naruto. Well, it was really hard. But it was also a lot of fun. To start with, Sakura started telling Naruto about the training she had done for the past 3 years. But as they talked, they didn't notice the pair of pure white eyes narrowing into a hate-filled glare. That's so cool, Naruto exclaimed. Do you think maybe you could teach us some of that cool medical stuff? He asked. Sakura noticed that all 3 of them were giving her a hopeful look. This surprised her. Naruto wanting to be a medic? She would have laughed and played it off as a joke if the look he gave her wasn't completely serious. Seriously? She asked, all 3 of you want to be medics? Naruto and Karen shared a look before looking at Haku, then back at Sakura. Well, I think Haku's the only one interested in specializing in it, he responded, and he already knows a lot about the basics. He's really good with herbs, and don't forget he's the one who put Abusa in a near-death state and helped him recover from it. Sakura nodded with excitement. The 13-year-old Sakura with no medical training couldn't appreciate just how difficult it was to put someone into a near-death state. And Haku had done it in the middle of a battle. Naruto had just brought Konoha a potential goldmine of a medic. What about you and Karen? She asked. The Naruto she knew was more a beat the crap out of the bad guys before they hurt someone, rather than a healer. Karen looked smart enough to be a healer, but looks didn't count for much in the ninja world. Look underneath the underneath. We both have chakra with healing properties. Even if we aren't medics, it'd probably still be good to know, Naruto said with a smile while Karen was looking at Haku while pouting and mumbling something about only he can use my chakra. Sakura smiled. Naruto's new friends seemed a little weird, but they also seemed nice. Come on, Naruto, she said as she grabbed his hand. I can't wait to tell everyone you're back. She began to pull Naruto along. And you'll have to tell me all about what happened while you were gone. Naruto sighed happily. It was nice being back in Konoha. He even got to hold Sakura's hand. Sadly, before he could enjoy it, the familiar sensation of death bearing down on him caught his attention. He quickly grabbed Sakura in his arms and jumped backwards, ignoring her startled screams. "Naruto, what the hell do you think you're doing?" she screeched. "Looks like she tried to kill you again," Haku said blankly. Sakura was about to ask what he meant when she saw the road in front of them. It was covered in what looked to be dozens of wires sticking out of the ground like giant darts. "What are those?" she asked as Naruto put her down. "Where did they come from?" She reached out to touch one when Karen grabbed her hand. "Don't touch those," she warned. "They will drain your chakra, potentially fatally. As for where they came from, you can thank the rabbit bitch." "Karen, what did I tell you about being nice?" Naruto asked as he walked past Sakura wearing gloves covered with seals. "Fuck nice," she snapped back. "With how many times she's tried to kill us, I'll call her whatever the fuck I want." Naruto began plucking the wires, causing them to go limp and revealing them to be strands of hair. "Well, technically she was only trying to kill me. He said you and Haku just happened to be in the way." Karen growled, apparently unsatisfied with the answer, while Sakura was more confused than ever. "Who are you talking about? What's going on?" The three ninja pointed to the roof of a nearby building. Sakura followed their fingers and gasped at what she saw. Sitting on the roof was one of the most beautiful women she'd ever seen. She was wearing a kimono similar to the ones she'd seen in paintings of ancient nobility. She had long flowing white hair that apparently served as a weapon. Oddly, besides having pure white eyes, she had what looked like horns plus a large red eye in the middle of her forehead. Sakura could see several seals on her neck and wrists. But what really caught her attention was that her beautiful face was twisted into the foulest scowl she had ever seen. "Who is that?" Naruto finished collecting the hairs and waved to the woman. "Better luck next time, Kaguya," he yelled. If possible, her scowl got even fouler as the space behind he warped into a portal that swallowed her up. Sakura's head was starting to hurt. "Naruto, who was that?" she asked as Naruto finished picking up Kaguya's hair and started pulling his gloves off. "That was Kaguya Otsutsuki. He said she was the very first ninja. Unfortunately, all that power drove her insane, so I'm going to fix her." Haku and Karen groaned. Apparently they didn't feel the same way. "Naruto, she couldn't possibly be the first ninja. Sakura said that would make her at least 1,000 years old." Naruto laughed and gave her a thumbs up. "Yeah. I hope I look that good when I'm 1,000. He said completely seriously. Sakura looked to Haku and Karen for support, but apparently they believed Naruto's story. "Now come on. I remember you saying something about catching up with everyone." Naruto began to walk away, followed by Haku and Karen, with Sakura bringing up the rear. "Will someone please explain what's going on?" Ino Yamanaka gave an annoyed sigh. She loved her team, she really did. But some days they could be so frustrating. Today all they had done was some warm-ups followed by taijutsu spars. After that they had practiced several Ino Shikacho formations followed by a cool-down. Now they were getting lunch at the barbecue place, which was Asuma's sign that they were done for the day. Sure, Shikamura had some meeting with Temari later, but there was no reason Asuma couldn't keep training he and Choji. She swore that if not for her constant complaining they would never get anything done. Her attention was drawn to the entrance as her best friend Sakura walked in with two people she didn't recognize and a blonde she was very surprised to see. "Naruto?" she asked. "Is that you?" Choji and Shikamura were drawn out of their conversation by her question. "When did you get back?" Naruto smiled and waved at them. "Hey guys. What's up?" He walked over followed by Sakura and the two mystery people. "So like I was saying," he said to Sakura. "With all the seals on her she's about as strong as all 5 Kage put together." Sakura paled in fear while Team Asuma looked confused. Was he talking about one of the girls with him? They didn't seem that strong. "Troublesome." Shikamaru groaned. "So Naruto, what happened on your trip and who are the girls?" Naruto and the redhead laughed while the brunette got an annoyed smile. "The redhead is Karen," she waved while looking at the menu the waiter had brought over. "And the guy with the sword is her boyfriend Haku." Everyone stared at Naruto before looking at Haku. He waved at them. "Yes, I'm aware I look like a girl." Naruto and Karen snickered. "And I believe these two have a bet over how many people will make that mistake. I believe we're up to 5. "So you want to hear about my trip?" Naruto said. "Well, let's see. I think a lot of it needs to be cleared by Tsunade before I talk about it." "Oh, I know, I can tell you about my trip to the Land of Water." His classmates listened with interest while Asuma wondered why Naruto would be in the Land of Water since last he had heard it was in the middle of a civil war. "So it all started when I met this guy named Utakata. He's a pretty cool guy, I think you guys would like him. So anyways, I'm walking on the beach when I see this guy blowing bubbles. He seems interesting, so I stopped to talk to him. Well, one thing led to another. Naruto spent the next few hours telling them all about his trip to the Land of Water, from his first meeting with Utakata to meeting and training with the rebels. They thought they could hide in the mist, but they didn't realize the mist was filled with steam. So when they hid too long, their armor started melting. They tried to run, but we caught them and to everything that wasn't starting to melt. Everyone was listening, amazed to hear that the class idiot had already fought in a war. So with all the extra weapons we had with went. Sakura Haruno. Everyone turned to see an ANBU standing behind them. The Hokage has ordered you to report to Training Ground 7 in an hour. Naruto looked at the clock and saw it was now 2. Sorry guys, he said as he stood up and paid for his lunch. My evaluation's in an hour. I'll talk to you later. Team Asuma all sadly groaned. Come on. You can't leave us hanging like that. Ino whined. What happened next? Choji and Shikamaru nodded in agreement. Naruto smiled and pointed at the clock. What happens next is Shikamaru gets in trouble for not meeting Temari on time. Naruto walked away laughing while Shikamaru stared off into space before he bolted out of the restaurant. Troublesome. Did we really have to leave early? Sakura asked. Her and Naruto were walking alone since Haku and Karen had gotten directions to Naruto's house and taken off, though Naruto had invited them to watch his evaluation. No, but that seemed like a good place to stop, he replied. Otherwise I'd still be in the middle of the story when I had to leave. Sakura was curious what happened if that didn't qualify as the middle. Before she could continue that train of thought, her and Naruto saw 2 more of their classmates walking towards them. Hey Kiba! Crap, what was Kiba's teammate's name? Naruto racked his brain of answers before finally remembering. Shino! What's up, Shino? Kiba waved while Shino calmly walked behind him. Yo Naruto! When did you get back? Kiba asked while the giant dog next to him barked happily. Naruto started petting the dog. I just got back today. I'm getting ready for my evaluation, he said. And I'm guessing this little guy is Akamaru? He asked as he scratched him behind the ears. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Kiba laughed at Akamaru, knowing he hated people baby talking to him. Hello, Naruto. Shino said. I am surprised you remember me. Why? Because the 2 of us have rarely interacted before this. Naruto scratched the back of his head, not wanting Shino to know how right he was. Come on, Shino, he said nervously. Who could forget about you? Naruto couldn't tell what Shino was thinking due to his glasses, but he had the feeling Shino didn't believe him. Man, it sucks you got back today. Kiba said. We were just about to leave for a mission. You need to tell us all about your trip, man. So, you have any luck with the ladies? Sakura was about to tell Kiba to shut up and stop being a pervert, while Naruto had a rather pervy grin. Before either could voice their thoughts, everyone was forced to jump away from a giant tiger made of ink. I've only been home 1 day and I've already been attacked twice. Seriously, universe. What the hell? Naruto angrily muttered as he threw a kunai straight into the tiger's head. Where'd it come from? Up there, Sakura said, point at a roof down the street. Naruto looked and saw a very pasty kid with short black hair and a bizarre revealing outfit. He opened a scroll and grabbed a brush before drawing faster than anyone could follow. His drawings turned into a pack of tigers and attacked the group of friends. Naruto quickly summoned several clones to deal with them. Soon the street was filled with ink splotches and smoke. The creepy kid looked around, unable to see Naruto anywhere. You know it's rude to attack people you haven't even met yet. The creepy kid spun around and saw Naruto sitting right behind him. You know I have this interesting ability to sense emotions. Negative emotions are easier, but I can still feel the positive ones. He stood up and slowly approached the creepy kid. Usually when someone's trying to kill me like that, they have a lot of negative emotions. But you? You don't really have any emotions at all. You wouldn't happen to be one of those rude creeps I was warned about, would you? The creepy kid's eyes shot open before he quickly schooled his features. Do me a favor, he said as he leaned close. Tell Danzo his past is about to catch up to him. The creepy kid stared for a few seconds before he burst into ink. Naruto jumped down and rejoined the others. What the hell was up with that guy? Kiba asked. Naruto looked at the ink splattered everywhere and decided he better leave before someone made him clean it up. Just some overly enthusiastic guy who couldn't wait to test me. Speaking of testing, me and Sakura need to get to Training Ground 7. Go luck on your mission, guys. Later, Hinata. A loud squeak got Kiba and Shino's attention. Hinata poked her head out from behind the tree she was hiding behind. As she watched Naruto and Sakura walk away, all she could think was, why didn't he want to talk to me? Naruto and Sakura entered Training Ground 7. Remembering when they first became ninja, they weren't surprised to see Kakashi sitting on the training logs. Kakashi gave them his usual eye smile and closed the book he was reading. Hello Naruto, Sakura. It's been a while, hasn't it? You both look like you've done a lot of growing in the past 3 years. Hey sensei. Naruto said. Still reading those trashy romance novels? Kakashi's eye twitched. Trashy romance novel was a step up from porn, but that was still his favorite book being insulted. Glad to see you're just as loud-mouthed as you've always been. Now it was Naruto's turn to eye twitch. Kakashi held up a pair of bells. I don't think I need to remind you how this test works. Come at me with the intent to kill, or you'll never win. He attached the bells to his belt. And go. With that he vanished. Naruto and Sakura slipped into fighting stances. Any idea where his is? Naruto asked. They looked around but saw no sign of their teacher. Sakura thought for a moment before pulling a pair of gloves out of her pocket. Well, last time he hid underground, she said as she pulled them on. Let's see if he thinks we forgot about that. Sakura pulled her fist back and smashed the entire training ground to bits. Naruto and the newly uncovered Kakashi both stared in horror. Note to self, they both thought never get hit by her. I see she picked up your strength, Jiraiya said as he and Tsunade watched from a nearby tree. Bleach her blonde and she'd be a miniature you. Indeed, she's rather impressive, Karen said as she and Haku jumped onto the branch next to them. I see why Naruto wouldn't shut up about her. Well, actually she couldn't do that when he left, Tsunade said. Noticing the Haku had changed into a more combat-appropriate outfit, she asked. What's with the costume change? I would assume if Karen and I are going to join Konoha, you'd need to evaluate us to assess our rank. We figured this would be a good time to do so. Not if they take too long getting the bells, Jiraiya said, knowing Kakashi they could be out here all night. Haku and Karen laughed. You seriously have no idea just how powerful Naruto is, Karen replied. Though I'd be amazed if he was forced to reveal his full strength here. Something bad would have to happen to push him that far. Hundreds of miles away outside of Sunigakura, 4 figures stood covered with black cloaks with purple music notes on them with a pinwheel eye in the center of them. Several jonin in Suna uniforms stood behind them. We got all your spies out, the blonde one said to the hunchback. Can I please start blowing stuff up? The hunchback growled in annoyance. Yes, Deidara. He rasped in an extremely gravely voice. Just make sure you remember to use the special explosives you were given. Deidara laughed and summoned a giant, unnaturally white bird. You got it, Sasori, my man, he said as he flew off. The hunchback turned to look at the jonin behind him. Head to Odogekure, he said. We'll plan our next move once I get back. The ex-Suna non bowed and ran off. Let's go, Sasori said as the other 2 cloaked ninja followed him and the first explosions went off over Suna. Get ready, Kakashi, Naruto said as he charged up a Rasengan. Because I'm going to AHHH. He dropped to his knees and grabbed his head. With a flash of pain he found himself sitting in an endless white void. Kurama was sitting behind him while 8 glowing fireballs sat in a circle around him. One had grown a large tanuki face. Naruto! It screamed. It's just like Koko and Chome warned. Suna's under attack. There's at least 4. I'm pretty sure all of them are ex-Akatsuki. Help! Naruto removed his hands from his ears. Don't worry, Shikaku. I'll be there as soon as possible. Just hold them off for as long as you can. The tanuki nodded and faded away. Let's do this, Kurama, he said as the fox behind him got an insane grin. Naruto! Sakura yelled as tried to get his attention. Are you okay? Naruto! Kakashi stood off to the side. He was worried about Naruto, but he wasn't dumb enough to just walk up to him in the middle of a test. Suddenly Naruto jumped up. Sorry, Kakashi, but I need to end this right now. Kakashi braced for an attack as Naruto held up his hand. Dark rings appeared around Naruto's eyes as he channeled chakra through his hand. Suddenly the bells flew from his belt and into Naruto's hand. Naruto tossed one to Sakura. We win! Got to go! Haku! Karen! Let's go! Haku and Karen jumped from the tree along with Jiraiya and Tsunade. Naruto, what's going on? Tsunade asked. Naruto began channeling the same golden chakra and healed her with, only this time it spread over his entire body. Suna's under attack. He said the 3 of us will go on ahead. You send backup. Before Sakura or Tsunade could protest, Naruto's chakra exploded. Where a teenage human once stood was now a giant golden 9-tailed fox. A glowing chain shot out of Karen's wrist and wrapped around his neck. She grabbed Haku and pulled them onto Naruto's back. The fox turned and jumped away. Tsunade stared in shock before turning to the masked jonin. Kakashi, get ready. Team Kakashi and Team Asuma are providing backup to Suna. Now! Alright, listen up. Tsunade said as she looked at the ninja assembled before her. Approximately 15 minutes ago, Naruto Uzumaki, along with his two new self-proclaimed teammates, took off for Suna. They claim that Suna is under attack but failed to provide any details. You are to follow after them, provide assistance in the event they were right, and drag them back here so I can remind them that they can't just go running off whenever they want. Any questions? Sakura stepped forward. Lady Tsunade, she began, I believe I saw that creepy Kaguya woman chasing after him. Do you want us to do something about her too? Tsunade thought back and recalled seeing someone in white chasing after them. Wait, Kaguya? Tsunade said nervously. As in Kaguya Otsutsuki? Sakura nodded, not enjoying the look of fear crossing Tsunade's face. Is that idiot trying to get us all killed? What the hell is he thinking just letting her wander around? Naruto claims that she has several seals on her body that allows him to somewhat control her, Sakura said. But even still he claims she could fight all 5 Kage and win. Tsunade groaned. She was really starting to regret just letting Naruto skim over the details of his trip. You are to stay as far away from her as possible. Once Naruto gets back, I'll have him fill me in. Any more questions? Nobody spoke up. Then move out. Team Kakashi and Team Asuma turned to chase after their favorite blonde idiot. The desert sun was beating down as Naruto, still a giant golden fox, ran as fast as he could across the dunes. Riding on his back were his teammates, Haku and Karen, and their new passenger Temari. They had spotted her right at the edge of the land of fire and picked her up after quickly explaining what was happening. So do we have any idea who's attacking Suna? Karen asked Naruto. Luckily, when Naruto went full-tailed beast mode, he still appeared on top of Kurama's head so they could still talk to him. Well, I can't talk to Shikaku when my system is flooded with Kurama's chakra like this, he said, but from the way he was describing everything blowing up, I'm guessing that day-something guy is there. I believe the name you're looking for is Deidara, Haku said. And if the ex-Akatsuki structure hasn't been changed too much, Sasori of the Red Sand is most likely with him. Temari paled at that. Having a brother who was interested puppets meant she had heard all the horror stories of what Sasori had done. Right, those two, Naruto said. But he didn't say anything about the other two. He said it seemed like they were just keeping the other Suna ninja from interfering. None of the ninja liked the sound of that. Naruto, do you think this could be a trap? Temari asked. With 4 S-class missing Nin attacking and only one actually doing any damage and the other 3 stalling for time, it looked like a trap. Most likely, Naruto said. But Suna's under attack. I'm not about to just let my friends be killed because it's safer for me to run away. I'd be a pretty crappy Hokage if I did stuff like that. Everyone smiled at that. Naruto wasn't letting all his newfound power go to his head. Gaara raised another wall of sand in front of him to shield himself from the latest explosion to be launched at him. So far outside of destroying several buildings surrounding the Kazekage Tower and verbally taunting him, the attacker hadn't made any direct moves at him. So what were they waiting for? Gaara! The Kazekage looked up and saw a giant golden fox falling towards him. In a flash of light it vanished, leaving behind 4 teens. Don't worry. Team Naruto is here to save the day. Before anyone could point out how dumb his intro was, a manic laughter got their attention. Well, what do you know? Deidara said with an insane grin. Just like we planned. Attack the raccoon and the fox will come running. I didn't think it'd work, but here we are. Deidara the blonde looked over his shoulder to see his partner approaching. A raccoon and a tanuki are 2 separate creatures. Use your brain before you accidentally blow yourself up. Deidara growled and was about to retort when another voice cut in. Raccoon? Tanuki? Who gives a flying fuck? Let's just kill the fucking dipshits already. Naruto tensed at the approaching pair. One was tall and thin with swept back silver hair, carrying a 3-bladed scythe. The other was equally tall, wearing a black mask over his head with creepy red and green eyes. It was Haiden of Yugakure and Kakuzu of Takigakure, the infamous zombie brothers. Well, isn't this a nice little reunion? Naruto said sarcastically. Where's the two-faced plant creep? He too scared to show up? Really, he was nervous. Haku and Karen had gotten stronger since they started training together, but they weren't S-rank. Even with the ninja of Suna backing them up, he wasn't sure if they could take them all. Deidara's laughter got his attention. Funny you should say that, he said as he went through several hand seals. I was given a special explosive just for this mission. When he finished the last seal, the residue that coated the area began to glow. Several large blobs clustered together and began to take a familiar shape. Before anyone could react, they were surrounded by an army of Zetsu. Well, shit, Karen said as everyone took a fighting stance. Any ideas, Naruto? Naruto looked at the army surrounding them before giving a sigh of defeat. He really didn't want to do this, but he had no choice. He made a seal and spiked his chakra. Sensing an attack, one of the Zetsu charged him, only to stop inches from him as something grabbed the back of its head. Everyone slowly backed away. Standing in front of Naruto was Kaguya, a look of curiosity on her face. Kaguya, Naruto said slowly, if you promise to be good and not kill any of our allies, I'll let you keep the seal that blocks your ability to drain chakra off. He sighed again. Permanently. Do we have a deal? Kaguya's face slowly twisted into an insane grin. The Zetsu in her grip began to scream as it violently thrashed and clawed at her hand before slowly crumbling into a withered wooden husk. The Zetsu began to shake with fear as Kaguya turned to stare at them, a Cheshire cat grin splitting her face. Before any of them could react, she pounced on them and began draining them one by one. Well, that's one problem solved, Karen said, but what are we going to do about them? Before anyone replied, a bird made of clay dive-bombed them, exploding on impact. Everyone jumped away from the explosion, but quickly realized it had only served to separate them. Great, Karen said blankly as Kakuzu stood across from her. So I end up fighting the little girl. He said, I'm very busy, so at least try to make it into. Kakuzu's heart leapt from his body as 5 glowing chakra chains pierced his chest. He stared at the chains before he slowly pulled his cloak off. You just destroyed one of my hearts, he calmly stated. Normally I'd be upset. But seeing as you're offering something as rare and valuable as an Uzumaki heart to replace it, I suppose I can forgive you. Kakuzu's tentacles lashed out, entangling themselves in Karen's chains. His remaining hearts surrounded her and launched attacks at her. She quickly summoned a shield of chains to surround herself, but was barely able to hold the attacks off. Shit, 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 she swore as another barrage of attacks smashed her chains. I can't beat him in a straight fight, so I'll have to outsmart him. Another barrage nearly broke through her shield. I hope Haku isn't having as much trouble as me. Haku stared at his opponent, unsure of what to do. When he found himself faced with Haiden, he quickly summoned his ice mirrors to ensure the insane cultist couldn't get his blood for his ritual. The downside was, although he was safe from harm, he couldn't do any real damage to Haiden. The immortal Nin shrugged off his sabam like they were nothing, and Haku wasn't sure he could maintain his speed and use the Kubikura Bocho at the same time. Hey sissy! Haiden screamed, how about you get your little faggot transvestite ass out of your little makeup mirror and fight me like a real ninja? Or are you too busy bleeding like the little bitch you are? Haku ignored the comment and launched another wave of saban at him. Haiden quickly blocked most of them, and the ones he didn't were easily removed. Bitch, put down the fucking sewing needles and fight me! Haiden smashed his scythe into one of the mirrors, leaving huge cracks all over it. Seeing an opening, Haku refroze the mirror, trapping Haiden's scythe. He quickly moved behind Haiden and swung Kubikura Bocho as hard as he could. The massive blade entered the immortal's shoulder before stopping in his chest. Haku pulled the blade out and jumped back into the mirrors as Haiden broke loose and smashed several other mirrors. You fucking faggot fuck! I'm going to enjoy ripping you limb from fucking limb! Another mirror was smashed as Haku began to struggle repairing them. I can't maintain my mirrors in this desert environment, he weakly said to himself. I hope Karen and Naruto are doing better than me. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. Naruto stared down Sasori. He had tried to send some clones to aid Haku and Karen, but the puppet in front of him had quickly taken them out. So, he said as he slowly began to circle his opponent. It seems like Akatsuki held together pretty well even after Nagato disbanded it. Though none of you ever really seemed to enjoy working together. Kind of odd that you would stick with each other. Unless there's a new puppet master pulling your strings now. Naruto ducked as Sasori's tail lashed out with lightning speed. Naruto summoned a pair of clones to flank him, and the trio launched a barrage of air bullets at him. His tail quickly twisted around his body, taking most of the hit. I don't know why you bother asking. Sasori rasped out, you are already well aware of our plans. Though how you learned of them is a mystery I would like to solve. His tail whipped around and destroyed one clone, while he spit several saban at the other. Naruto summoned more clones and continued to try to get into Sasori's blind spots. Actually, I'm just making a few educated guesses. I have a few concrete facts, but most of your plan eludes me. Naruto began to focus his chakra to his throat, knowing that he had only one shot at this. And just because somebody is on your side doesn't mean your enemies can't learn from them. Naruto took a deep breath and spat at Sasori. Thinking it was another air bullet, Sasori raised his tail to block it, but was shocked when a glob of lava began melting his tail. Before he could react, a clone with a Rasengan smashed into his back. Naruto jumped back to see if he'd done any damage. Sasori's tail was now fully burned off, and the armor on his back was filled with cracks. His body parts were all twitching as he tested their movement. You damaged my favorite puppet, he said slowly. I can tell that you're going to become quite the thorn in our sides. Though I'm curious as to when you obtained the ability to use lava release. None of our intel indicated you had this ability. Naruto frowned. He had been hoping that his Rasengan would destroy Sasori's armor completely. Now his enemy knew one of his biggest secrets. Thankfully, he hadn't worked out the source of his secret. No matter, Sasori said as he armed his weapons. Killing you and the Kazekage just became higher priority. Naruto summoned more clones. I thought your plans revolved around capturing the Jinchuriki, not killing them. Not that it matters since neither one of us is going down, the clones charged as Sasori fired his arsenal. Those were the plans of the old Akatsuki that you dismantled. He said we no longer need the Jinchuriki or the beasts they hold. We simply need them out of our way. The last clone was destroyed and Naruto and Sasori locked eyes. And make no mistake, one way or another, two of our enemies will die tonight. Gaara sent several tendrils of sand towards Deidara, who easily dodged and weaved out of the way, before launching several explosions his way. Gaara's theory that they had been stalling was proven correct as Deidara was now focusing all of his attacks directly at the village leader. Gaara pulled his sand back and cut Deidara's leg. Damn it! He hissed. I should have known fighting you low to the ground was a mistake. I can't believe I had to carry all that shit to summon all these weaklings. If I had a full supply of explosives, you'd have been dead long ago. He threw several more clay spiders at Gaara, who easily blocked them again. Then I suppose I should consider myself lucky that you aren't fully armed, he blankly said. Though it would have been a good plan had Naruto not brought that woman with him. Deidara growled. Fuck you! He snapped. I don't need pity from the guy I'm about to kill. Besides, even with that bitch holding off the freaks, that doesn't change the fact that two of your backup are nowhere near out level. They'll be dead soon enough, and then their opponents will come for you. Deidara laughed and set off another round of explosives. He's right. Gaara thought. I need to end this quickly. Naruto ducked under another wave of Saban. When Sasori had stopped spitting them, he had assumed the puppet was out of ammo. Sadly, the puppet's body was covered with Saban launchers, which had made creating clones or getting close impossible. But now he noticed something new. Why isn't he attacking me? Naruto asked himself. He has enough puppets that he supposedly destroyed an entire country by himself. So why is he shooting Saban at me with a broken puppet? Naruto became very nervous. There were 4 S-rank missing nin here plus an army of Zetsu. If they really wanted to kill him and Gaara, they could have easily teamed up to kill Gaara then turn on him when he showed up. But instead they had waited until he showed up, and now they were drawing the fights out, causing lots of damage, but not actually killing anyone. What were they waiting for? A scream got his attention as something crashed in between them. The dust cleared, revealing Kagaya draining another Zetsu as it weakly struggled in her grip. So that's how it is, Sasori said, getting Kagaya's attention. Looks like we're forced to use the fallback plan. A tube extended from Sasori's back and fired a flare as Kagaya raced forward and grabbed him by the head. She attempted to drain his chakra but quickly found no chakra to drain. Confused, she looked up and saw Naruto running away chasing someone wearing the same cloak as the man she was holding. Looking down, she saw that she was holding an empty suit of armor. With a snarl, she crushed the puppet's head before turning to try and find some more Zetsu to drain. So things have gone that badly, Hayden said as he looked at the flare. Well, at least now I get to kill a bitch. He slashed his hand and began using his blood to draw a symbol on the ground. Haku tensed up as he waited to see what Hayden would do. He hadn't been cut, so why was Hayden starting his ritual? Hayden finished drawing his symbol and pulled a vial of blood from his pocket. He drank it, turning his skin into a bizarre black and white, making him look like a skeleton. Haku began to panic. Whose blood was that? Could they have somehow gotten my blood? Or someone else in our group? Hayden reached into his cloak and pulled out a long, thin sword. Well, this has been fun. See you in hell. Hayden stabbed himself in the heart, and Haku reflexively grabbed his chest. After a few seconds, he slowly relaxed. I'm still alive, he whispered. He didn't get me. Oh, thank goodness. He looked up to see Hayden grinning sickly as he slowly pulled the sword from his chest. Hayden giggled insanely as he put the sword away and stepped out of the ring. But who did he kill? Hayden held up his scythe and smashed one of the mirrors. Got to go, he said. I'm going to need to do a lot of praying to make up for not killing your little bitch ass. He then turned and ran off. Haku stared for a few seconds before chasing after him. I can't let him hurt anyone else, he thought. Karen, Naruto, please be safe. Karen panted as sweat ran down her face. She wasn't going to last much longer. Kakuzu's hearts gave off enough chakra that her mind's eye of the Kagura allowed her to predict their movements and dodge their attacks. Unfortunately, beyond using her chains to hold the hearts back, she hadn't been able to do a thing to Kakuzu. Now the greedy bounty hunter was starting to look bored. Is that all? He asked after that first attack. I was expecting something better. But here it turns out that one of my hearts was destroyed by a lucky shot. He growled angrily. There's no point in dragging this out any longer. Now die. Karen sensed an attack from behind, so she spun around and used a chain to smack down a fireball. Feeling the last of her chakra fade, she collapsed and passed out, but not before she saw the heart that attacked her explode in a shower of gore. "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" Kakuzu yelled. "Don't take it personally," Sasori said as he had the third Kazekage withdraw his iron sand. "I bear you no ill will. But the fact of the matter is that at this point you are unneeded for our operation to continue. In fact, your continued presence is currently holding us back. So now, for the good of the mission, die." Sasori sent another wave of iron sand at Kakuzu, who attempted to counter by firing a pulse of lighting. While Kakuzu's body and lighting heart escaped damage, his earth and wind hearts were destroyed. He quickly pulled his lighting heart back into his body, knowing that he would die if it was destroyed. "And what happens when you're no longer needed for the operation?" he asked. "You seem to believe that since you're the one doing the backstabbing now, that somehow makes you immune to it in the future." Sasori sealed the third Kazekage and pulled a katana from his cloak. "If I am no longer needed for the operation, then that means the operation was a success," he replied before charging Kakuzu. The heart stealer dodged, knowing that even he couldn't withstand being poisoned by the deranged puppet master. Focusing his chakra around his fist, he punched as hard as he could and was satisfied as Sasori's head flew from his shoulders. But before he could celebrate, Sasori's headless boy swung at him, barely giving him time to dodge. Sasori's head flew back to his body and twisted back on in a sickening manner. "So, those rumors of just how far you've taken your human puppet technique are true?" Sasori didn't respond, instead charging him again. Kakuzu expertly avoided his strikes while attempting to put his fist through Sasori's chest. Sadly, having a puppet body meant the Sasori could twist and bend in very inhuman ways and not lose any fighting ability. After several minutes of going nowhere, Kakuzu saw opening and punched. Sasori turned as the fist gently grazed his chest. Kakuzu prepared to follow up but found his arm moving very slowly. Too late, he realized that Sasori's free hand had been weaving chakra threads that were now holding his arm in place. Before he could pull free, Sasori stabbed his final heart. Kakuzu spat up blood and glared at his red-headed opponent. "Enjoy your victory for now," he growled as he thought back to the leaders of Taki who had locked him up as punishment for failing to kill the first Hokage. A leader willing to sacrifice his followers to further his own goals will turn on you sooner or later. Remember that. Sasori simply cut Kakuzu's head off and quickly sealed his body. Sasori then turned and approached Karen. "Now what to do with you?" he asked himself. "You held off Kakuzu, which is impressive, but in the long run I doubt you'll amount to anything impressive." He raised his sword overhead. "Still, I would rather err on the side of caution." He brought his sword down to stab Karen, but was stopped by a kunai. Naruto had once again gotten in his way. "I don't have time for this," he blankly said and made a seal. Another wave of explosions went off, but unlike the others that were centered around the Kazekage Tower, these happened all over Suna. "Shit!" Naruto jumped over Karen to protect her from an explosion that went off nearby. Looking up, he saw Sasori was gone. He grabbed Karen and ran towards the Kazekage Tower. He saw Gaara giving orders while several jonin were leading squads to contain the fires. Haku was standing next to him looking exhausted. "What happened?" Naruto asked as he landed next to them. Deidara was preparing to set off a giant bomb that would have caused massive damage to the city, he replied. Suddenly he grabbed his chest and collapsed. Haku's opponent then came and retrieved the body. Before we could begin pursuit, the explosions went off. "What happened to Karen?" Haku asked nervously as he took her from Naruto. "Is she going to be okay? She isn't hurt, is she?" "She'll be fine," Naruto said. "She's just suffering a mild case of chakra exhaustion. And you know how quickly an Uzumaki can get over that." He and Haku laughed weakly. "Well," Haku said, "I guess I'll just take her to the hospital." Haku passed out as his own chakra exhaustion caught up with him. Naruto created a pair of clones to take them to the hospital, while he helped Gaara clean up the mess he had created. Meanwhile, in the land of rice fields, the citizens of the new Otogekyo were going about their business. Right now it was just a large town, but once all the construction on the outskirts was finished, it would be a small city, comparable to other shinobi villages. In the central tower, Sasori as giving a mission report to 4 people. The explosive Zetsu did not cause as much damage as we were hoping. A woman in white, matching the description of the Kagaya woman we were told to look out for, drained most of them of their chakra. A growl came from the corner. But we were successful in removing Deidara and Kakuzu. "Excellent," the man behind the desk said. "We can begin making preparations to move to Phase 2. Sasori gave a bow, turned to walk away. "And Sasori, please tell Haiden that if he can put off praying long enough to walk back here, he can put off praying long enough to give his own report." Sasori nodded and left. "So what do you think?" he asked a figure in the corner. "I observed for as long as I could without being detected," Zetsu said. I have not yet managed to learn how Uzumaki is controlling Mother. Or how he turned her against us, her loyal servants. The leader nodded. Very well. Continue to observe her as frequently as possible. If we can recruit her to our side, it will make things much easier. Zetsu nodded and sank into the floor. The remaining 2 people stepped in front of the desk. What are your thoughts? The tall orange-haired boy spoke up first. Having Kagaya on our side would be in our best interests, he said calmly. But based on Zetsu's observations, we cannot hope for her to help us. I think ensuring that Phase 2 goes off without any hitches is the best course of action at this point. The leader nodded and looked at the pinkette next to Yugo. The fuck you expect me to say? She snapped. You're the fucking leader of this shithole. I'm just here to fuck up that pineapple-headed shitstain and his weasel fucking cum dumpster whore. How's that for a fucking plan? The boy frowned. Tayuya, show some respect, he said. You are not vital to this plan. You can very easily be replaced by any number of Otonin. She scowled. Fuck off, Yugo. I'll talk however I fucking want to whoever I fucking want. You fucking got that? Yugo felt his temper being to act up, but a spike of killing intent made both of them focus back on the leader. That's enough. Both of you, he said. Now leave. I have some documents that need to be finalized. They bowed and left, Tayuya a bit slower due to her noticeable limp. He turned and stared out the window at his growing city. Just you wait, Itachi. You, Konoha, and everyone else who ever disrespected the Uchiha clan will pay for your treachery, Sasuke said as his purple-ringed eyes pulsed with rage. Just what in the hell do you think you're doing? Tsunade yelled as she paced behind her desk. In front of her were Teams Asuma, Kakashi, and Naruto. Team Naruto was taking most of the anger. Just because you went on a 3-year trip doesn't mean you can just go running up to other villages whenever you feel like it. And how did you even know that Suna was under attack in the first place? And who attacked it? Well, Naruto began, I knew it was under attack because Shikaka told me. Over my trip I learned how to communicate with, and access the chakra of, all the Biju. As for who attacked, those were the former Akatsuki members who left when the leaders abandoned their whole take-over-the-world scheme. Some of the other Biju warned me that something like this could potentially happen. I just didn't think it would be so soon. Very well, Tsunade said, already feeling another headache coming on. So who is this new group? Who are their members? What is their plan? And why would some of the Biju be aware of them? As far as I know, this new group doesn't have a name, Naruto said. I can answer your other questions, but I don't like repeating myself, so could I tell you in a few days when everyone gets here? Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Naruto, what do you mean by everyone? She said slowly. Naruto nervously scratched the back of his head. I mean, I invited the leaders of Kiri, Suna, and Ain here, and they'll be arriving in the next few days. Naruto took a step back at the glare Tsunade shot him. Are you insane? She cried. You can't just invite a bunch of foreign leaders to just waltz on in here. Do you have any idea what kind of message that will send other countries? They might think that we're preparing for something big. Lady Tsunade, Naruto said so sternly that her triad ended. Before it could regain steam, Naruto continued. In case it escaped your notice, one of our closest allies has a smoldering crater in the middle of their village, put there by a gang of S-class missing nin. It seems to me that somebody is already trying to send a message. I have a lot of info that I've been ignoring because I had no proof it was true and I didn't want to cause any problems. Now because of that there are dozens of people in Suna's hospital receiving from being blown up. We need to prepare for something big because something big is already starting, and one way or another I'm going to do my best to help the people close to me. I can do it with your permission or without it. What's it going to be? Everyone watched nervously as Naruto and Tsunade stared at each other. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Tsunade sighed and pulled a bottle of sake from her desk. You are so lucky that I like you, brat, she growled. Fine. For now I'll trust your judgment. But I'm warning you. If this goes badly, you will be the one cleaning up your mess. Naruto grinned and gave HR a thumbs up as she poured herself a drink. Now there is one thing you need to answer for. How exactly is Kagaya Otsutsuki here, and why are you just letting her wander around completely unsupervised? Isn't this the same woman that nearly wiped out humanity? Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Well, her being back is part of the story I wanted to tell everyone, he said, ignoring her agitated groan. And why would I not let her wander around? She's completely harmless. As he said this, the window behind Tsunade smashed to pieces and Naruto ducked as a bone flew over his head and embedded itself in the wall. Everyone watched in confusion as Naruto walked over to the broken window and started waving. Kagaya, please don't break things, he said a little too happily. When you do, I'm the one who has to pay to fix them. Tsunade looked out the window and saw Kaguya standing on the window across the street. Her hand was extended, like she had just finished throwing something. Her fingers were twitching with annoyance, if her face was anything to go by. She turned and jumped away as Tsunade stared at Naruto. "How exactly is that harmless?" she asked. "In case you didn't notice, people don't normally try to kill each other." Naruto shrugged. "Maybe," he said. "But this is a huge improvement compared to how she used to be. I placed some seals on her that would paralyze her if she tried to drain the chakra of anyone. As soon as I removed them and told her they were gone for good. But what I didn't tell her was they will reactivate as soon as she tries to do it again. In the days since the battle, she hasn't tried once. I know she isn't nice or normal, but she also isn't a monster. At least not anymore." Tsunade sighed, knowing she wouldn't be able to talk Naruto out of this. Of course, she doubted she could do anything against Kaguya even if she wanted to. "Very well. For now you're all dismissed." Everyone saluted and turned to walk away. "Before you go, Naruto, how many days will it take for everyone to get here?" Naruto thought for a moment before holding up 3 fingers. Tsunade was again stunned. Even ignoring Naruto's apparent ability to instantly communicate across long distances, she didn't see how they could all get here so quickly. Suna was understandably, since Naruto could have just told them before he left. If Kiri had its Jinchuriki and they could talk with their Biju like Naruto, could she suppose that he could have told them as they were leaving Suna? But Ain? She couldn't think of any way for Naruto to communicate with them, or for them to get here so quickly. She decided to stop asking questions and just let them go. As they walked down the hall, Shizen walked up to Kakashi. "So Kakashi," she said as she nervously adjusted the papers she was carrying. "My shift ends a little early today, so I was wondering if perhaps you would care to join me for dinner tonight?" She blushed as Kakashi turned and I smiled at her. "I'm very flattered, Shizen," he said while Shizen's heart fluttered. "But I'm going to have to decline." Shizen's heart shattered. "It was nice talking to you, though." Later, Kakashi walked away, leaving Shizen disappointed until she felt someone tapping her shoulder. She saw Karen was the one trying to get her attention. "Excuse me, Shizen, was it?" she asked. She nodded, so Karen continued. "I don't really think you're his type." Seeing Shizen's confused look, she continued. "Well, we and Suna," and blushing slightly, she leaned in and whispered in Shizen's ear. A number of expressions crossed Shizen's face, most of them some variation of confusion. Finally, she pulled away. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I know that Kakashi isn't exactly the most normal person around, but that seems a bit strange even for him." Karen nodded. "A person's chakra will fluctuate a certain way when they're interested in someone else," she explained. He was definitely interested. Shizen walked away looking more confused than ever. Everyone else left the Hokage Tower and began to go their own separate ways. "Speaking of dates," Naruto said, "would you like to go out tonight, Sakura?" Sakura stopped and thought about it. Part of her wanted to instantly reject him like she used to while she waited for Sasuke to finally come around. But another part wanted to say yes. The part that had formed when she saw Naruto bandaged in the hospital after the failure of the Sasuke retrieval mission. The part that had grown louder as she spent 3 years training and remembering her time on Team 7 and all the time she spent with Naruto, while Sasuke did his best to distance himself from them as much as he could. As those two fought, the third voice that was exhausted after the mission and wanted to crawl into bed and sleep spoke up. "Not right now, Naruto," she said. "Ask me again some other time." Naruto smiled. That wasn't a no, so he still had a chance. "Alright, Sakura. Some other time," he said. "Hey, Ino. Would you like to go out tonight?" Both girls froze and stared at him. Finally, Sakura spoke up. "Naruto, what the hell?" she asked angrily. "You can't just ask out 2 girls right in front of each other. Do you have any idea how rude that is?" At Naruto's confused look, Ino spoke up. "You're making it seem like you don't care who you're dating," she said. "Asking me right after Sakura makes it seem like you don't actually care what she said. But it's also like you're only interested in me because Sakura said no. Not to mention, if we both said yes, you'd be cheating on us." Naruto began waving his arms in panic. "No, no, 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 no," he said. "I swear I didn't mean it like that. I'm so sorry. I'm still not used to the whole dating thing. I just kind of fell into my other relationships, and none of them ever minded me seeing other people." Once again, Ino and Sakura were frozen, staring at Naruto. "Naruto," Sakura said slowly in a tone that promised trouble. "What exactly do you mean by other relationships?" Naruto, unable to sense the danger, began talking. "I have 4 girlfriends," he said proudly while holding up 4 fingers. "Why? Is that not normal?" Sakura's eye twitched. "No shit, that's not normal," she yelled. "How many people do you know who run around in openly polyamorous relationships? And why are you trying to get more? Are they not enough? Naruto began flailing again. It's not like that, he said. Like I said, I just kind of fell into them. And they said I could date other people if they approved, and they're all coming, so I figured I ask you both. I've always liked Sakura, and Ino's pretty and kind, so I figured why not? Sakura was about to start another rant when she was cut off by the last thing she expected to hear. Sure, Naruto. What time should I be ready? Sakura turned and started dumbly at Ino. Ino laughed at Sakura's expression before shrugging. What? It's just a date. If it works out, great, and if it doesn't, we can still be friends. Plus, there's no guarantee I'll meet the approval of these mystery ladies. Great, Naruto said. I'll pick you up at 6. Ino gave a wave and walked away while Naruto did the same, leaving Sakura standing there, more confused than she'd ever been. Naruto started thinking about his plans for Ino. Where should I take her? He asked himself. It needs to be somewhere fancy, but not too fancy. I don't think I can afford some of the places around here, plus it is just a first date. Save the fancy stuff for another date if I get one. Excuse me, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto looked at who pulled him from his musings and saw the same guy who had jumped him while he was talking to Team 8. Hey, it's the creepy art guy, Naruto said with a grin. Not to be rude, but I just got through dealing with one insane artist, so could you make this quick? The artist gave a very creepy grin. My master wishes to have a word with you. Naruto's smile instantly fell and his face hardened. He fully turned to face the artist. Very well, he said coldly. Lead the way, mister. He left the question hanging, hoping to get something out of the weirdo. For the sake of this mission, you may refer to me as Sai, the now named Sai said. He then turned and walked away with Naruto close behind him. Sai led Naruto to an abandoned building where he showed him to a secret passage in the basement. What followed was a maze that Naruto couldn't even pretend to keep track of. Eventually they entered a dark room with a single illuminated table. Sitting at the table was an old man wrapped extensively in bandages. His right arm was sitting in a sling. Seeing the two enter, he made a gesture with his hand, causing Sai to stop walking. Naruto continued up to the table and sat down. So, he said as a cold smile crossed his face. You're the infamous Danzo Shimura? He looked the old man over. Considering all the horror stories I've heard about you, I'm not sure if I should be disappointed or impressed. Danzo's one eye narrowed. And how exactly have you heard about me? He asked. Or about my rude agents? Naruto gave a low laugh. I don't even know where to begin, he said. I suppose the first time I saw your name was when I took down Orochimaru. Danzo's eye widened in shock. He talked a lot about you in his notes. Did you know you inspired most of the terrible things he did? Sure, he took them a lot farther than you did, but you were still the one that inspired them. And of course you still enjoyed the benefits of his work. As he said this, he stared at Danzo's injured arm. Not to mention he gave full credit for Kabuto to you. Danzo gave a grunt. Orochimaru was the one who turned Kabuto traitor, he insisted. Before that he was an ideal shinobi for Konoha. Naruto rolled his eyes. I'm sure you believe that, he said blankly. But getting back to your question. Most of what I heard about you came from my time in AIM. Danzo's eye widened again, and he leaned forward in his seat. I see that got a reaction out of you. Yes, Akatsuki's descent from a band of rebels to an international terrorist cell is your fault. Not purely your fault, but you still have a lot to answer for. Unless I'm mistaken, offering aid to another village in exchange for said village helping you stage a coup is very illegal. I guess we're lucky Nagato accidentally summoned Kagaya to wipe out your forces. Indeed, Danzo said as he subtly activated the stolen Sharingan in his right eye. Why don't you tell me more about this Kagaya woman? To Danzo's confusion, Naruto shook his head. No thanks, he said. She isn't really relevant to this conversation. Instead, let's talk about what a hypocrite you are, trying to stage a coup after exterminating the Uchiha for doing the same thing. Danzo glared at Naruto. Don't look so surprised. In case you forgot, Itachi was a member of Akatsuki. If I knew the history of its leaders, learning about one of the followers shouldn't be that hard. Perhaps, Danzo said as he focused more power to his Sharingan. Of course you can understand why I'll have to ask you to never speak of this again. Yeah, that's not going to happen, Naruto said. And can you do me a favor and stop trying to use that eye on me? Laughing at the confusion and fear on Danzo's face, Naruto decided to explain. Did you know that a pair of Sharingan are permanently linked? If a Sharingan develops the ability to link to other dimensions, even if you implant those eyes in two separate people, they will still link to the same space. And since it would be bad for someone with unbreakable hypnosis to accidentally hypnotize themselves, anyone with the Kodo Amatsukami can't hypnotize themselves. And if those eyes are separated, the two people with the eyes can't hypnotize each other. Naruto slowly opened his mouth as a mass of black chakra flowed out. It took the form of a one-eyed crow with a Sharingan in its single eye. The crow caught a few times before it retreated into his mouth. Where did you get that eye? Danzo asked angrily. He made a hand gesture, and Naruto sensed several root agents surrounding them. Sadly for you, Itachi no longer shares your ideals, Naruto said. While he agrees that sacrifices are necessary for the greater good, he now sees that sitting back and ordering everyone else to make sacrifices for you while you brag about how great you are helps nobody. It wasn't very wise of you to tell me all of this, Danzo said as he slowly stood up, his glare never leaving Naruto. It doesn't matter, Naruto said with an actual grin. In a few days all those hornets' nests you poked are going to explode and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Now if you'll excuse me, I have other stuff to do. Naruto stood and turned to walk away but found several root agents blocking his way. You aren't going anywhere, Danzo said. You will remain here until all the problems you have created for Konoha are taken care of. I hate to break it to you, but you are not Konoha, Naruto said. You are a self-centered asshole who believes he can get away with anything by constantly spewing the phrase greater good even though the greatest good you've ever done has been purely for yourself. And I really can't stick around any longer. I have a date tonight. Naruto then took a deep breath as he channeled chakra to his throat. Stop him! Danzo yelled. But before they could move, the root agents were all blown away by the cloud of steam Naruto exhaled. The steam cleared, revealing Naruto was gone. Find him. Bring him back here at once. The root agents scattered, but Naruto had followed the steam to the nearest exit and was long gone. Ino looked herself over in the mirror. Naruto had left before she remembered to ask what tone the date was. She wasn't expecting anything fancy, but really hoped he had enough sense not to take her to the ramen stand. Well, he must be doing something right if he managed to win over 4 girls and got them to agree to share, she told herself as she adjusted the purple dress she had settled on. She hadn't done anything with her hair, and the only makeup she used was a bit of lipstick, enough to be sexy without drawing attention. She figured that she looked good enough that she didn't need a ton of makeup. Well, here goes nothing, she said as she left her room and walked downstairs. At exactly 6 there was a knock on the door. Opening it, she saw Naruto in a nice black shirt and good-looking black pants. Wow, you look great, he said as he held out his arm for her to take. She closed the door and took his arm, while looking him over. Thanks, you don't look so bad yourself, she replied. She had never thought much of Naruto, but he had definitely grown to be handsome. So where are we going? Nowhere special, he said. Just a lucky leaf. Ino smiled. As expected, he was taking her somewhere nice without being too fancy. She wasn't sure what she'd do if he took her somewhere formal with the dress she was in. It didn't take long to reach the lucky leaf and get a seat. After placing their orders, Naruto decided to start the conversation. So what's it like on Team Asuma? It's okay, I guess, she sighed. I've been friends with Choji and Shikamaru since I was little, so we get along really well and it's easy for us to work together. But sometimes I get the feeling Asuma doesn't really want to be a teacher. Really? What makes you think that? Ino spent a few minutes thinking about how to phrase her answer. Finally she spoke up. Well, I always feel like Shikamaru is his friend, but Choji and I are just his students, she said. Sure, he trains us. But him and Shikamaru always hang out before and after training, plus during training they act like they're best friends. Sometimes I get the feeling he's trying to get Shikamaru to take over our training. She snorted. Good luck with that. I know how that is, Naruto said. Kakashi never played favorites, but he never really taught us anything either. If you want, you can always come train with my team. Ino smiled. Thank you, Naruto. I just might take you up on that, she said as the waiter brought their food. But let's talk about something more positive. Are you enjoying being back in Konoha? Naruto shrugged. I guess so. It's great to be home, but most of my time back has been spent being interrogated by Tsunade. The blonde pair laughed at that. And I barely even had any time to clean my apartment. Plus I forgot to ask anyone to take care of my plants, so they all died. Now I have to start my garden all over. Ino instantly perked up. You like gardening? She asked, surprised. When Naruto nodded, she quickly latched onto the shared interest. How come I've never seen you in my family's shop? We're the best flower shop in the village. That's part of the problem, he said. When you're the best, you tend to charge a little extra. I could never afford anything from there. Hey, our shop isn't that expensive, she said with a blush. She knew that wasn't true. There were only a few flower shops in Konoha and her family's had a reputation for quality. Of course, their prices were high compared to other shops. Deciding to move on, she asked Naruto what kind of plants he grow, to see if she could help get him started. They talked about their favorite flowers, ideas they had for what flowers would look nice together, and tips and tricks they had for helping plants grow. Before Ino knew it, they had been talking for several hours and Naruto was now walking home. I figured we could do it by taking some white ones, then breed them with something closely related that's blue. What do you think? Ino thought about it. I suppose in theory it could work, she said. But I'm thinking that might produce a lighter shade than what you're looking for. Plus there's no guarantee the result would be capable of producing offspring. Seeing they had reached her doorstep, she was surprised how disappointed she was that it was over. Does it have to be over? She asked. The night's still young. Sorry, but tomorrow's going to be a long day, he said. The group from Suna is going to be here tomorrow, and since I invited them here, it's only right I'm there to greet them. Ino raised an eyebrow. By group from Suna you just mean Gaara and his siblings, right? Naruto nodded. Come on. They've been here a million times. They don't need you to show them around. Unless Temari is one of these mystery ladies? Naruto laughed. Sorry, but me and Temari? Naruto wiped a tear from his eye. That's never going to happen. Though Temari is the reason I'm showing up early. I promised I'd help set her up with Shikamaru. Temari and Shikamaru? Really? Ino just couldn't see it. Shikamaru wouldn't want to bother with a relationship, and Temari was way too outgoing for someone that lazy. Yeah, they'll go great together, Naruto insisted. Shikamaru just needs a few pushes in the right direction. Well, Ino, I had a great time tonight. I'll see you around. Naruto gave a wave and started walking away. Wait. Naruto looked back at Ino, who was blushing. Isn't this the part where you asked me for a kiss? Naruto grinned. Ino, you shouldn't kiss on the first date, he said. I had a great time tonight. I think we really had a connection. Maybe on the second or third date I'll ask you for that kiss. But first I need to get a second date with you. Realizing what he was asking, she smiled and waved. I'd love a second date, she said. But first maybe I should wait and see if these mystery ladies approve of me. But if they don't mind, then sure. See you later. Ino blew Naruto a kiss and headed up to her room. Leaning out the window, she smiled as Naruto walked away. This relationship was going to be far from normal, but it just might be worth it. Ino hummed to herself as she watered the plants in her father's shop. Even since Naruto had dropped the bomb that the leaders of 3 separate villages were coming to visit, Tsunade had stopped assigning any new missions that weren't D or S rank. S rank missions were too important to ignore, even with foreign ninja running around, while D ranks could be done without sending ninja away. She figured working in her dad's shop for a few hours while he had a meeting with the clan head was easier than a D rank mission, and it'd pay more too. She heard the front door open and quickly got behind the counter. Welcome to the Yamanaka flower shop, she greeted. How can I help you today? She barely finished talking before Sakura grabbed her and pulled her close. You can help me by telling me what the hell happened last night, she said. How was it? Did you find out who these other girlfriends are? Why did you even agree in the first place? Are you dating now? Ino quickly slapped her hand over Sakura's mouth. Sakura stopped talking, but her eyes still shone with curiosity. It was nice, Ino said. We had a nice dinner, talked about each other, and he walked me home. And no, his other girlfriends never came up. She laughed at Sakura's confused expression. I agreed to go out with him because I figured what's the worst that could happen? And I suppose technically we're dating, given that we scheduled training together, and I agreed to help with his gardening. She removed her hand and Sakura instantly began talking again. How do you date a guy with other girlfriends without asking about them? She asked. She didn't get why someone who was just as interested in Sasuke as her would go on a date with someone she barely knew. Then again, she barely knew Sasuke, so maybe she was just chasing anyone good looking. Because they never came up, Ino said. He wanted to know more about me and I wanted to know more about him. The other girls never came up. Once they get here I can get to know them. But until then I'd like to focus on me and Naruto. Seeing that Sakura still looked confused, Ino grinned. If you're so curious about what the appeal is, maybe you should just go on a date with him yourself. Sakura blushed. She wasn't as against the idea as she was 3 years ago, but part of her still held out hope that Sasuke would come to his senses and come back to her. And maybe some other time, she stumbled out. Ino laughed at her friend as someone else came in. Honey, I'm back, Inoichi said as he walked through the door. Hello, Sakura. It's been a while since your last visit. Sakura politely bowed. Hello, Mr. Yamanaka, she said. Training with Tsunade has kept me really busy lately. I just stopped by to ask Ino about her date last night. I'll kill the little bastard, Inoichi said, flying into protective father mode. Rationally, he knew Naruto wasn't the type of person who would do something to hurt Ino. But in the eternal war between father and boyfriend, there is no room for rationality. He'd better keep his hands to himself. Daddy, we've been over this, Ino sighed. He was respectful enough that he didn't even try to kiss me after the date. Inoichi continued muttering while Ino started walking towards the door. Now I agreed to help greet the representatives from Suna, so if there's nothing else to do here, I need to go. Very well, Inoichi said, thank you for covering while I was busy. Ino gave him a hug, then left with Sakura right behind her. My little girl's finally growing up. Thinking of the two boys from Team 7, he shrugged. She could have done worse. Ino and Sakura made their way to the front gates. Sakura was still trying to fork out Naruto's relationships in her head. The question that Ino hadn't been able to answer was, how exactly did it work in the bedroom? She got that Naruto valued his girlfriends as individuals. But was the bedroom purely one-on-one? Was it open door? Did you have to set something up with the other girl? Were you dating the other girls too? You're thinking of something perverted, aren't you? Sakura looked up and saw Ino was giving her a large grin. What makes you say that? She asked, knowing that lying to Ino was hard, given her Yamanaka training and heritage. You were blushing and muttering to yourself, she replied. I believe I heard you mention something about other girls joining. Sakura's blush grew worse. Is somebody interested in a little threesome action? Shut up, Sakura screeched, hoping that Ino wouldn't notice that she had hit the nail right on the head. Ino laughed and began running with Sakura right behind her. Sadly for Sakura, the gates came into view before she could catch and get revenge on her loudmouth friend. Hello, Naruto, Ino sang as they approached. Jiraiya, Naruto, and Tsunade looked up from their conversation to see the pair of Kunoichi approaching. Hello, Lord Jiraiya, Lady Tsunade. Hello, Ino. What brings you here? Tsunade asked. Her and Jiraiya had just finished making hotel arrangements since, according to Naruto, each leader would be bringing 2 bodyguards each. I agreed to help Naruto get Temari and Shikamaru hooked up, she said. Hopefully a girlfriend will motivate him to get off his lazy ass and train once in a while. Sakura and Tsunade snorted, causing Ino to hang her head. Yeah, you're right, she groaned. So what's the plan for today? I will be meeting with Gaara to begin setting up the framework of this alliance Naruto apparently threw together, Tsunade said while shooting Naruto a look. Naruto will be escorting his bodyguards around. Speaking of which, Naruto said, here they come. Looking up, everyone saw Gaara approaching with his Kazekage hat on. As expected, Kankuro and Temari were right behind him. The Konoha ninja approached, and they met right at the gate. It is a pleasure to see you again, Lady Hokage, Gaara said with a formal bow. Tsunade returned the gesture. It's a pleasure to see you as well, Lord Kazekage, she said. I trust you had a pleasant trip. Gaara removed his hat. Indeed it was. Normally I wouldn't leave Suna so soon after an attack, but thanks to Naruto the damage wasn't as severe as it could have been. Thank you? Don't thank me, Tsunade said. Naruto's the one who took off running the second he realized something was wrong. Then he comes back and announces he's throwing a party for other village leaders. Gaara smiled. Naruto tends to not be very clear when explaining things, he said, getting laughs from everyone but Naruto, who muttered angrily. I have sent several letters to the other leaders, but I've never had the chance to speak to them in person. I'm hoping this will lead to an alliance that can benefit all our villages. Very well, Tsunade said. Let's head to the Hokage Tower and begin negotiations. Naruto, stay out of trouble. Hey! Gaara, Jiraiya, and Tsunade began walking to the Hokage Tower, leaving everyone else behind. Come on, Temari, Naruto said. We have a lot of work to do if you're going to score with lazy, dull, and scrawny. Naruto, don't call him that, Temari said as she lightly pushed him. The trio of blondes left with Kankuro chasing after Gaara, and Sakura once again left by herself. I wonder if I should have told them about Hinata, Sakura said to herself. Heading back home, she shrugged. What's the worst that could happen? So Temari, Ino said as they walked through the park. What exactly is so great about Shikamaru? I mean, I've known him my whole life and he's nice, but I don't think I'd ever date him. Probably for the same reason I won't date Naruto, Temari replied. I see all the great things about him, but he's like a brother to me, and I'm not interested in sleeping with my brother. I guess, Ino said, but even if I wasn't that close to him, he's just so boring. Naruto burst out laughing while Temari glared at Ino. I can't help it if I like the guy. She said you don't seem to mind splitting Naruto with 4 other girls. Rather than get embarrassed, Ino grinned confidently. What can I say, he's just that amazing. Are you sure you don't want to date your not really brother? Temari cringed. Look, she said. If someone wants to date a family member, they can go right ahead and do it. If you're close enough to someone that they're like a family member, then they're like a family member. But don't say someone's like a family member and then date them. Because then you're just going out of your way to be weird. As interesting as this is, Naruto said, I've located the target. He pointed to a nearby hill where Shikamaru was staring up at the clouds. Okay, here's the plan. Ino and Temari leaned in, interested to hear what Naruto had thought up. Temari, go tell Shikamaru he's taking you out and when to pick you up and where to take you. The girls stared at him. That's your plan? Ino asked. Just go tell him that they're dating? Naruto nodded and grinned at them. Well, I couldn't outsmart Shikamaru, he said. So I figured just tell him he has to do it. He'll agree because arguing will take more effort than just doing what you say. The girls couldn't think of any way to argue with that. Alright, let's do this, Temari said as she confidently walked over to Shikamaru. Naruto and Ino watched as Temari stood over Shikamaru and started talking. Shikamaru sat up and seemed to start panicking as the conversation continued. Finally, he fell backwards in defeat as Temari turned and walked back to them with a big smile on her face. Well, that was easy. So what are you going to wear? Ino asked. Seeing Temari's confusion, Ino's jaw dropped. Oh my god, you've never been on a date before, have you? Seeing Temari's blush, Ino grabbed her arm and dragged her away. Don't worry. I have a dress that will look absolutely gorgeous on you. Naruto? He turned and saw Hinata, who looked like she was on the verge of passing out. Sakura told me that you were dating openly and I was wondering if perhaps you'd be interested in going out with me tonight? Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Hinata was interested in dating him? And weren't there rules for clan heirs and heiresses dating outside their clan? Wouldn't she need to give up being heiress to date him? How was she supposed to unite the main and branch families if she gave up being clan head? But there was one other problem that was a bit more pressing. Are you sure? He asked. You look kind of sick. Maybe we could do it some other time when you're feeling better. No, I'm fine, she yelled. Blushing at her outburst, she continued at a normal volume. That's just because I'm nervous. I'll be much better tonight. So what time should I expect you? How about 6? He asked, ignoring the fact that she had basically invited herself. She nodded and walked away with the biggest smile he had even seen on her face. Man, 2 dates in 2 days? If I'm not careful, I'm going to run out of places to take them. With that, he left to plan his date. Naruto sat across from Hinata trying to think of what to say. He had decided to repeat his date with Ino since that had gone so well. He probably should have told Hinata, since she was now a bit overdressed. But it was too late for that. Might as well enjoy it. So Hinata, what kind of training has your team done while I was gone? He asked, figuring that training was one thing they were guaranteed to have in common. Nothing special, I guess, she said. True to her word, she was now much calmer than she had been earlier. Kurenai showed us some genjutsu. Nothing too powerful, just enough to distract the opponent so we can move in and hit them with our taijutsu. Wow, really? Naruto asked. Kiba doesn't really seem like the genjutsu type to me. Or do you cast the genjutsu and Kiba goes in for the attack? Hinata frowned. We never really discussed how to use them as a team, she said. Kiba wasn't that interested in learning them, and Shino learned them, but he prefers to use his clan jutsu. Now it was Naruto's turn to frown. Not to be rude, but it doesn't really sound like she's taught your teammates all that much. Hinata scowled at him. You're not exactly one to talk, you know, she said. I seem to remember Kakashi ditched you for a month during the Chunin exams. Yeah, and that was the first and only time he did it, plus it was only for a month while I was a genin, Naruto said, ignoring the fact he still was a genin. It sounds like Kurenai has been focusing on you repeatedly for the past 3 years. Plus your Chunin. Shouldn't you be learning something a little more advanced than some basic genjutsu? Genjutsu is Kurenai's specialty, Hinata said, quickly coming to her teacher's defense. Besides, Kurenai has always done her best to teach us. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Kurenai, he said. I'm just saying if you aren't learning that much under your teacher's best, you might want to consider getting a new teacher. Hinata could see Naruto's point, though she still didn't like him talking bad about the woman she thought of as a mother. So Naruto, she said, trying to lighten the mood. What did you learn over the past 3 years? Naruto tried to think of something he could tell her that wouldn't reveal things he didn't want revealed yet and lighten the mood. One very important thing I learned is, no matter how much they claim to know about ninja, never get advice from a civilian. Seeing Hinata's confusion, he grinned. I met this guy, who insisted that he'd read enough about ninja that he could give me some great advice. He kept insisting that I was going to be an amazing ninja based on my unique skills. Like how my henge is an actual transformation instead of an illusion. Hinata tilted her head in confusion. But the henge already is an actual transformation, not an illusion, she said. Were civilians really that clueless about ninja? I tried telling him that, but he wouldn't listen. He said between my henge being real and my inability to create a basic bushin, I would never specialize in genjutsu. Did he think that because bushin aren't solid they're illusions? Naruto nodded. That's so. Hinata trailed off. She didn't want to call a civilian stupid for not understanding how ninjutsu worked. But being surprised that a transformation technique actually involved transforming, and thinking that clones, the most basic of ninjutsu, were genjutsu, was rather stupid. So, did you take any interesting missions while I was gone? Naruto asked. With the tension gone, they began exchanging stories. Hinata talked about some of the missions teammate had taken, Naruto talked about some of the sights he'd seen on his travels. Eventually they were walking back to the Hyuga compound. Tonight was pretty fun. Yes, it was just as wonderful as I always dreamed it would be. Hinata sighed happily. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Hinata made it sound like she had been planning this for a long time. Well, whatever. Well, Hinata, I suppose this is the end of our date. She pouted. I really enjoyed our time together. I hope we can do it again sometime. He turned and began to walk away. Wait! Hinata yelled. Naruto stopped and looked at her. This is the part where you're supposed to kiss me. Naruto smiled at her. I'll tell you the same thing I told Ino. We don't know each other well enough yet. Ask me again on our second or third date. Naruto was about to walk away when Hinata stopped him again. But I'm not like Ino. Naruto looked back at Hinata with a raised eyebrow. You don't need to prove yourself to me. Back in the academy when everyone else thought you were an idiotic loser, I noticed you. There was never a moment when I doubted that you would become Hokage. No matter how bad things got, you never gave up. You've always inspired me. You make me believe that I can be a better person and accomplish my own dreams. I love you, Naruto. She stepped forward, preparing to kiss Naruto. To her confusion, Naruto took a step back. Hinata, you couldn't possibly be in love with me. Hinata was fairly certain she heard the sound of her heart shattering into a million pieces. Before tonight, our longest conversation was just before the Chunin exams. Before that, we almost never spoke to one another. You don't know me well enough to love me. But I do know you, she desperately said. I watched you. Whenever somebody said you couldn't do something, you trained yourself as hard as you could. And I watched and wished that I could be as brave and strong as you, so together we could help each other accomplish both our dreams. Hinata, that's not love, Naruto said. That's you using me as an emotional crutch. Hinata gasped. You're a lot stronger than you give yourself credit for. Just have a little more confidence in yourself, and there's nothing you can't do. And I'll be right next to you the whole time, as a friend. So what? She asked as she glared at him. You're saying that if I was braver I wouldn't even want to be with you? That you'd just be an acquaintance and nothing more? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, he replied. And I can prove it to you. Come on, please, Naruto said as he crawled on his knees next to Tsunade. You don't have to make her your next apprentice or anything. Just give her a little extra training so she'll be confident enough to stand on her own. Naruto, we've been over this, Tsunade said as Naruto stood up. If I'm going to make this alliance you've set up work, it's going to take a lot of my time. I won't have time to train Sakura and Hinata. Tsunade, you and I both know that Sakura has essentially finished her training under you, Naruto said. Anything you haven't taught her at this point, she's either learned it from Shizen, or she taught herself in her free time. Come on. I turned you 30 again. The least you could do is help my friend out. Tsunade sighed and rubbed her forehead. She knew that Naruto was right, both about Sakura and about her owing him. She was just lucky he was asking her for something so mundane. Fine, she said. I'll work out a training schedule with her later. Now, who exactly are we going to meet this morning? Thank you so much, Naruto said, pulling her into a hug. I promise you won't regret this. Tsunade smiled and returned the hug before they resumed walking to the gates. And today the representatives from AIM should be showing up. Tsunade noticed that Naruto seemed slightly nervous. I really hope you know what you're doing, she said to herself. The last experience she had with AIM involved her team barely managing to escape with their lives from Hanzo near the end of the Second Shinobi World War. She vaguely remembered something about Jiraiya leaving to train some orphans, but shortly after that she had learned of Dan's death and had stopped caring about anything. Relax, Naruto said as they finally reached the gates. Everything will be fine. I just need you to trust me like you always have. I do trust you, Naruto, she said as Jiraiya walked up. It's the bunch of people from AIM I don't know that have me worried. Historically, AIM didn't have the best relationship with Konoha, or any other hidden village. Speaking of, Jiraiya said as he stared down the road leading to Konoha. Any idea when our guests are going to get here? Naruto put a finger on his chin and thought. They should be here really soon, he said. I don't think it takes that long to fly here. Jiraiya and Tsunade shared a look. What exactly do you mean by fly? She asked, hoping this wouldn't turn into another wait and see situation. Before Naruto could respond, a loud shriek caused everyone to look up. Flying towards them was, without a doubt, the ugliest bird any of them had ever seen. It had 3 wings and 3 legs, causing its flight to be shaky. Its oversized beak resembled a huge drill more than anything else. The huge creature landed just outside of Konoha's gates. That's what I meant by fly, Naruto said as a trio of cloaked figures climbed off the bird's back. Spotting the familiar red cloud pattern, Tsunade turned to Naruto. I thought you said Akatsuki didn't exist anymore. She said, why are they here? Naruto nervously scratched his cheek. Technically they aren't Akatsuki, he said. Akatsuki started out as a rebel group trying to overthrow Hanzo. Then some horrible stuff happened that I promised I would help them fix, and they became a terrorist organization. Then I met them and we managed to talk things out. They aren't a terrorist organization anymore, but since they rule AIM now, they aren't exactly a rebel group. So they aren't really Akatsuki, but the red cloud symbol means a lot to them, so they kept it. Suddenly one of the cloaked figures turned away from the giant bird and began charging them. Tsunade was prepared for a fight but stopped when the figure began waving. Master Jiraiya! A female voice happily sang out. Tsunade saw Jiraiya freeze, an expression of shock and confusion on his face. No, he whispered to himself. It can't be. The figure jumped at Jiraiya and tackled him into a hug. As she did, her hood fell down, revealing a young woman with blue hair and pale skin. She had a pierced lip and eyeshadow that matched her hair. It's so good to see you again, she said happily. She opened her eyes, revealing them to be a steely gray. She let go of Jiraiya, who stepped back in confusion. Conan? How are you here? I thought you were dead. Conan turned and looked at Naruto. They stared at each other for a few seconds before a look of realization crossed his face. Oh crap, I forgot. He turned to his teacher. Conan and Nagato, say hello. Jiraiya face-palmed while Conan giggled as she approached Naruto. You know it's a good thing you're cute because you never get by with just your brain. Naruto pouted and pulled her into a hug. Hey, that's not fair, he said. I've been working on getting smarter. I hate for my stupidity to accidentally get you hurt. Conan laughed again before leaning forward and pulling him into a deep kiss. She pulled back and stared into his eyes. I missed you, she said before pulling him into another kiss. Jiraiya and Tsunade's jaws hit the ground as Naruto pulled back and kissed her cheek. I missed you too, he said while continuing to plant kisses on her cheek. Jiraiya was torn between happiness that Conan was still alive, confusion as to how she knew Naruto, and pride in Naruto for finally opening his eyes to the amazing beauty that is women. Before he could dwell on this, another familiar, but much less welcome voice spoke up. It's been a while, Jiraiya. The Toad Sage quickly assumed a fighting stance while turning and coming face to face with a pair of glowing red eyes. From your reaction, I take it Lady Tsunade has ignored Naruto's request that the truth behind the Uchiha massacre be revealed. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. He thought Naruto wanted Itachi's final mission declassified. What did that have to do with the Uchiha massacre? Itachi Uchiha, Tsunade said in a voice that promised pain. Maybe you should consider the fact that discussing S-rank secrets in public is a crime punishable by death. Lady Tsunade, he said with a polite bow. I apologize, but one way or another, the truth will be revealed. Whether you choose to reveal it, or me and Naruto have to tell everyone ourselves. Either way, you can't stop it. Jiraiya looked back and forth between the two. Just what was happening? Oh really? Tsunade asked. And even if you did that, just what makes you think you'd be accepted back here? Simple, he replied. I will aid the leader of AIM in taking down the traitor Danzo Shimura. Once his crimes are exposed, the general public will be far more accepting of me. Seeing an opportunity to learn more, Jiraiya spoke up. Just who is the leader of AIM? He asked. And why would he have such a problem with Danzo? Itachi gave a smile that reminded Jiraiya a little too much of Naruto. She is right over there, he said, pointed to the third figure who had just dispelled the bird summons that they had rode here. Jiraiya was rather surprised. The girl looked to be about Naruto's age, with flaming orange hair and too many piercings in her face. As she approached, she met Jiraiya's eye, causing him to freeze. A pair of very familiar purple ringed eyes stared at him. It's very good to see you again, Master Jiraiya, the girl said. Jiraiya stared blankly. He had seen and heard a lot of crazy things since Naruto came back, but there was no way he was actually seeing what he thought was in front of him. Nagato? Is that you? The girl blushed and looked away. What the hell? How did this happen? She turned and glared at Naruto, who was no longer kissing Konan, but was still holding her closely as they talked. That conversation can be saved for later, she said, sounding slightly embarrassed. For now there are more pressing matters. Where is Danzo Shimura? Look, Nagato, whatever happened, I'm sure he was cut off by her grabbing him and, with a strength her small frame shouldn't have possessed, pulled him face to face with her. He stared into her eyes. They were the coldest, cruelest, most hate-filled eyes he'd ever seen. Where is Danzo Shimura? Danzo paced back and forth deep in the bowels of his root facility. Even since his conversation with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki 2 days ago, the brat had proven impossible to get close to. He was almost always out in public places, usually with several other people. Stationing agents outside his home in hopes of capturing him while he slept had proven fruitless, as he was apparently sleeping somewhere else. Danzo growled. If that brat ran his mouth to Tsunade, then everything he had spent years building would come crashing down in an instant. You should not let your emotions get to you, Lord Danzo, a voice behind him said. That's what makes ninjas sloppy and causes them to fail. Isn't that your philosophy? Danzo turned and saw Itachi calmly standing in the doorway. You certainly have a lot of nerve showing your face here, Danzo said as he ordered his root agents to surround Itachi. I would advise against that, Itachi said. We have a very limited amount of time if Root is to survive. Danzo gave a humorless laugh. You honestly expect me to believe that? He asked. It's bad enough the Kyuubi Jinchuriki found out about me through Orochimaru, but then you went and told him about my role in the Uchiha massacre. Not to mention you gave him Shurasue's Kodo Amatsukami. What possible explanation could you have to justify that? Itachi stared back at him. If Naruto was going to tell Tsunade about you, don't you think he would have done so already? Danzo glared. While he had found it strange that Tsunade hadn't been informed of his activities, he didn't think that justified anything. So what? He asked. Obviously the boy is planning something. Likely something that will allow him to dispose of me while making himself look like the hero. Truthfully, Danzo didn't think Naruto was capable of foresight on that level, but it was the best explanation he had at this point. Naruto isn't capable of planning something that complex, Itachi stated calmly. What he is capable of doing is trusting people who have already tried to hurt him in the past. For example, I told him that your encounter with Nagato happened after the Uchiha massacre and was an attempt by you to bring Nagato under your control. He now believes the Rinnegan is immune to the Kodo Amatsukami. Danzo raised an eyebrow. Now that he thought about it, Naruto had referred to his alliance with Hanzo as coming after the Uchiha massacre. At the time he had been more worried about the fact Naruto was even aware of such things. But what Itachi was implying definitely had his interest. Do you believe the Rinnegan could resist the Kodo Amatsukami? He asked eagerly. Having the Rinnegan at his disposal would make taking the position of Hokage much easier. Once it was secured, nobody would be able to oppose him. He could pluck them out and implant them at his leisure. I am unsure, Itachi said. Truthfully, me giving Naruto the other Kodo Amatsukami was merely an educated guess, to ensure you didn't accidentally interfere before I could speak with you. I apologize for any problems I may have caused, but Nagato has been increasingly paranoid since allying with Naruto, and I was unable to contact you. Danzo didn't drop his guard. In theory, what Itachi was saying could be true, but he hadn't gotten to where he was by being trusting. Trusting was what had allowed people like him and Orochimaru to prosper under the third Hokage's reign. Very well, he said. How would you recommend we proceed? This would be his test. Depending on how Itachi answered, he would know if he could go along with his plan, or if he would just kill him now. He could always use an extra pair of Sharingan for his arm. We don't have much time, Itachi said. Right now Nagato and Naruto are likely spilling everything they know about Root to Jiraiya and Tsunade. I placed a genjutsu on them so they won't notice my absence, but I doubt it will take them long to notice. From what you said earlier, I'm assuming you brought Naruto down here, correct? Danzo nodded. Then we'll need to fortify our defenses along whichever entrance you brought him in through. Do you know which entrance he escaped through? Danzo growled. Unfortunately, no. He said the boy somehow produced a cloud of steam and managed to cover his tracks as he escaped. Do you know how he did it? Itachi nodded. It would appear that during his journey Naruto made a point of speaking to all the Jinchuriki. Danzo's eye widened. Was the brat trying to cause an international incident? It seems Jinchuriki are capable of sharing their chakra with each other. Because he has all of their chakra within him, Naruto is capable of using all of the Biju's unique abilities, though only at the most basic level. I believe the cloud of steam was a severely underpowered boil technique. Do you think this chakra transfer could be replicated in Nanjinshuriki? Danzo asked. The potential for all his root to have the abilities of all the Biju, even on the most basic level, was too good to pass up. I don't know, Itachi said. But perhaps those thoughts should be saved until after the situation has been dealt with. Danzo nodded, disappointed in himself for losing focus like that. Now, since we don't know where he exited the base, we can't guard against them entering from that point. Unless you believe Root has the manpower to guard every single entrance. We do, Danzo replied. But our forces would be spread extremely thin. If they do enter through a different entrance than the one the Jinchuriki knows of, our forces will be overrun. But if we don't place anyone and they do enter there, nothing will stop them from reaching us. Itachi closed his eyes and thought. Perhaps we should keep our forces here, then send them to defend whichever entrance they attempt to enter through. I think it would be best if an explosion shook the base before Danzo could finish. Looking at the nearby security cameras, he saw Konan and Tsunade leading a platoon of ANBU in through the entrance Naruto had used. It appears we don't have time to continue this debate, Itachi said. What do you recommend we do? Danzo turned and pointed at the Root, who had been standing by to see if Itachi was a threat or not. Fortify the entrance, he ordered. This is our only opportunity to stop them. The Root quickly and silently left. Itachi approached and watched the cameras over Danzo's shoulder. Between Konan and an ANBU with wood release, they appeared to be attempting to capture as many as they could. What a fool, Danzo said. Showing mercy to a force created solely for the purpose of destroying her. This is why sooner or later she'll fail. What should we do about Kagaya? Itachi asked as Tsunade began to advance. Danzo scowled at the name. That's the second time I've heard her mentioned, he said. Who is this woman? What is she capable of? He sensed a spike of chakra and felt Itachi tackle him as a beam of light destroyed the security cameras. Looking up, he saw Naruto standing with a girl with the Rinnegan with a bizarre weapon for a hand and a woman in white with 3 eyes. That is what she is capable of, Itachi said blankly. Nagato's hand transformed back to normal while Naruto glared at Itachi. Itachi, what the hell? Naruto yelled. What happened to all that talk about restoring Konoha and cleaning out the corruption? Itachi stared back at Naruto. I lied, he responded. Naruto growled with anger before Nagato put a hand on his shoulder and stepped in front of him. Save your breath, Naruto, she said. It would seem once a traitor, always a traitor. But he's not my concern. She turned and glared at Danzo. Danzo Shimura. She growled with a slightly psychotic grin. You have no idea how long I've waited for this day. I'm going to enjoy killing you as slowly and painfully as I possibly can. Danzo smiled and uncovered Shirsui's eye. Unfortunately for you, Danzo said. Your vengeance will need to wait until you've finished serving me. He began channeling chakra to his eye when a sharp pain shot through it. Confused, he blinked a few times before he realized his field of vision had been narrowed. Turning his head, he saw Itachi standing next to Nagato and Naruto, with Shirsui's eye in his hand. Nagato and Naruto both had stunned looks on their faces. I didn't even see you move, Naruto said, amazed. How did you do that? Naruto's mouth shot open and the crow with Shirsui's eye carefully took the other one from Itachi and dispelled itself. When you transplant an eye, the optic nerves, muscles, and bone all heal in a specific way, he said. In their paranoia, the Uchiha developed several techniques designed specifically for plucking stolen eyes out of their sockets. Naruto turned slightly green. Itachi, you bastard, Danzo said as he covered his eye. Whatever you're planning, you won't get away with it. Several Root appeared, having come to warn Danzo that the ANBU were slowly gaining ground. Itachi smiled. I already have, he said. My sole purpose for being here was to ensure that Shirsui's eye wasn't damaged. Now that it's safe, I'll leave Nagato to deal with you. The Root ninja surrounded Itachi and stabbed him. Itachi burst into a murder of crows and the Root agents all fell to the ground with debilitating, but non-fatal wounds. Danzo growled and unsealed his arm. Fine then, he said. I'll finish you once I've finished the girl. Nagato's eyes narrowed in anger. Before either could make a move, the entire base shook again and sand began leaking through cracks in the walls. Taking advantage of Danzo's distraction, Nagato charged. Die! She screamed as she drove a kunai into his skull. She allowed herself to be satisfied for a few seconds before Danzo's corpse vanished. Nagato turned to face the sound of something being summoned. She saw Danzo standing on top of a colossal tapir. Not bad, girl, Danzo said as Nagato growled. But I won't be making that mistake again. Baku, destroy her. Baku's truck swung at Nagato, who held an arm up to block it. To Danzo's amazement and horror, Instead of becoming a bloody smear on the ground, she was just barely knocked backwards. Baku's trunk was now being held by Nagato, who had sprouted several extra arms. She reached up and tore off her damaged cloak, revealing that she was wearing standard ANBU armor. Only the sides of the shirt were slit, allowing her extra arms to move freely, and the shirt was short enough to expose her waist. "My turn," she said as she flashed through several hand seals. In a cloud of smoke, a gigantic centipede appeared and began crawling up Baku's trunk. The tapir snarled as it attempted to throw the giant arthropod off. It hissed and dug its fangs into the summon's nose. As the two fought, Nagato jumped onto Baku's back. Danzo spat several air bullets at her, which she quickly dodged. Focusing her chakra around her waist, she summoned her Azura Path's tail. The massive saw blade flew forward and cleaved Danzo in half at the waist. Just as the two halves were about to land, they vanished. With a scream, Baku dispelled itself, the centipede's venom finally getting to him. Nagato jumped back to the centipede's head and saw Danzo standing in front of her. "How are you doing this?" she asked. "I could ask the same of you," he said as he stared into her eyes. "I seem to recall the Rinnegan user was a young man. Yet there's no doubt your eyes are real. How did you get them, girl?" Nagato snarled and pointed her hand at him. "Stop calling me that!" she screamed as a blast of gravity flew from her hand and blew Danzo to pieces. Without waiting, she jumped off her summon's head and, as expected, landed right in front of Danzo. He quickly moved to stab her with a kunai, while she reached out to grab him. Ignoring the pain in her shoulder, she quickly grabbed Danzo's face and channeled her human path, sucking out his soul. Immediately she knew sometime was wrong. Normally souls stolen through the human path were like books that she could look through and read at her leisure. Danzo's was like a hastily written note that was rapidly burning up. Focusing her thoughts, she barely managed to find what she was looking for. She turned to face Danzo, who was beginning to look nervous. "What are you so happy about?" he asked, seeing the insane grin on her face. She pointed to Danzo's arm, where 4 of his Sharingan had closed. "It was close, but I managed to find out the secret behind your little trick," she said. "Placing a genjutsu on yourself to ignore every fatal injury you receive is rather clever. And rather enjoyable for me. I've already killed you 4 times. Now I'll get to enjoy killing you another 7 times. She threw a wave of shuriken at Danzo, who summoned a wall of wind to block them. Nagato quickly used her Preta Path to break through the wind wall, then quickly used her Azura Path to put her fist straight through Danzo's chest. Unlike before, he crumbled to dirt. Looking around, she saw Danzo was gone. "So, the rat's trying to run away, is he?" she said to herself. She turned and faced Kagaya, who had been standing off to the side, while Itachi and Naruto had kept any root agents from interfering. "I believe we had a deal?" Kagaya scowled at being ordered around, but didn't say anything. Instead, she held out her hand, opening a portal in the middle of the room. A few seconds later, Danzo fell through, looking confused as to how he had ended up back there. "It's useless, Danzo," Nagato said. "As long as Kagaya is here, any path you run down, any rock you hide under, and hole you crawl down, all of them will lead back here. You can't escape me. Now die." Conan ducked under a stray kunai before sending another wave of paper forward. As Itachi had predicted, the root members were all charging into the bottleneck created by attacking one entrance. They didn't have any plan of attack, they just suicidally charged, hoping to take out as many ANBU as they could. What they hadn't counted on was Gaara, Conan, and an ANBU with wood release. Between the 3 of them, they were able to immobilize the root long enough for the ANBU to incapacitate and capture them. Unfortunately, unlike them, she was limited by how much paper she could carry. The situation was made worse by the fact that the battle had been dragging on longer than expected. "Nagato, Naruto, please be safe," she whispered to herself. She knew she shouldn't be thinking of them while fighting a battle of her own, but she just couldn't help it. The 2 people closest to her were fighting the monster who had ruined her life. Not to mention their backup was an even worse monster. Naruto may have been willing to trust Kagaya, but she didn't think she ever would. The fact that her compliance in this plan had been earned by promising her that she could drain the life from all the root that were too far gone to be integrated back into the regular ANBU just showed what kind of person she really was. Those root would be killed either way, but that didn't change the fact that Kagaya's loyalty was being bought with human lives. As she blocked several shuriken, the sounds of a massive explosion shocked the base, causing the lights to flicker. All the root froze, making them easy to capture. As Conan pinned them, she heard one whisper. "Lord Danzo is dead." Conan's eyes widened in amazement. Had they done it? Had they really done it? Was that monster really dead? Conan impatiently waited for the ANBU to arrest the last of the root before she ran towards the center of the complex where it was likely they were fighting. When she got there, she froze in terror. The entire room was missing. In its place was a huge empty sphere with pipes and wires hanging down. It looked like something had taken a massive bite out of the complex. She saw Danzo's beaten, bloody corpse at the bottom of the pit, but there was no sign of anyone else. Nagato? Naruto? She called nervously. Her voice echoed across the empty room. Nervously, she began climbing into the pit. Nagato? Naruto? Her breathing began to grow labored as fear slowly crept into her soul. Reaching the bottom of the pit, she began frantically looking around. There were no signs of life anywhere. Nagato! Naruto! Panicking, she turned and glared at Danzo's corpse. Why do you keep having to ruin my life? She screamed as she kicked his body into the corner. Conan grabbed her head and screamed in pain. Once again, just as everything was going right with her life, the world saw fit to take it all away from her. Everything in front of her began to grow hazy as tears filled her eyes. She sobbed as her vision grew black. Blinking a few times, she realized the haze was actually space twisting and bending in front of her. Like a gaping maw, space ripped open. Kaguya calmly stepped out, looking no worse for wear. With a loud yelp, Itachi, Nagato, and Naruto fell out behind her and landed in a haphazard pile of limbs. Naruto weakly gave a thumbs up. Thanks for the save, Kaguya. He groaned. Kaguya said nothing as she began to walk away. Conan quickly ran past her and grabbed her friends in a bone-crushing hug. Nagato! Naruto! Thank God! She said as she started crying tears of happiness. I was so worried. I thought you were dead. Naruto happily hugged her back, while Nagato awkwardly joined in. Don't worry, Conan, Naruto said. I'm not going to die until I become Hokage, and help you and Nagato restore aim. Conan smiled and started kissing Naruto, making Nagato very uncomfortable. Luckily for her, Itachi chose that moment to speak up. As sweet as this moment is, do you think you could get off me? He asked. Conan and Naruto quickly jumped away, while Nagato and Itachi stood up and dusted themselves off. Thank you? It was getting uncomfortable down there. Conan and Naruto blushed brightly, while Itachi and Nagato left to assist Tsunade with rounding up the last of root. Conan pulled Naruto into another hug when she noticed Kaguya staring at them. She still wasn't sure about the three-eyed princess, but she had to admit, the apathetic stare she was giving was much better than the hateful glare she had constantly worn when she had first woken up. Thank you? Conan said. Kaguya's eyes widened in surprise for a few seconds before she turned and walked away. Naruto, thinking that Conan was talking to him, pulled back so he could look into her eyes. It was nothing, he said. I'd do anything to keep you happy. I love you, Conan. Her eyes began watering again as she pulled Naruto into a slow, deep kiss. I'd do the same thing for you, she said. I love you too, Naruto Uzumaki. The sun began to slowly sink below the horizon as a trio of ninjas sat on top of the Hokage monument. It had been a long day of sorting through all the files pulled from Danzo's base. Even with his suicide seal destroying a large chunk of his base, there was still more than enough evidence, and now loose-lipped X-Root, to wipe away any positive memories of Danzo, not that there were many of those to begin with. The only two people with anything positive to say about him were the other elders, and it took only a fraction of Danzo's crimes being exposed for them to quickly withdraw their support. Man, it's been a hell of a day, Naruto said. Conan and Nagato nodded in agreement. I just really hope Tsunade doesn't kill me for keeping her out of the loop so long. Conan giggled while Nagato shook her head. When they had told Tsunade what Danzo had been doing under her nose, she had flipped out. After calming her down and pointing out that they needed an actual plan to take Danzo down, she had immediately turned on Naruto, demanding to know how he could keep something like that from her. She was rather upset with you, Nagato said with a small smile. But all things considered, I doubt she'll kill a shinobi of your caliber over something as minor as not charging into a situation without backup. Naruto laughed. I don't know about that, he said. At this point, that's pretty much what she expects from me. The two Ain Kunoichi joined him in laughing. Conan leaned onto his shoulder. Well, lucky us, you've started working on that, she said. And thanks to you, that monster is finally dead, and Yahiko can finally rest in peace. Naruto smiled and kissed her head. It's no problem, he insisted. Any decent person would want to put a stop to him. Now who wants to celebrate? Ramen's on me. Conan shook her head as they stood up. Well, at least she could meet this I am girl Naruto had mentioned a few times. Plus the ramen from there was Naruto's favorite food besides red bean soup, so it must have been good. Nagato, would you like to join us? At that, Nagato's good mood seemed to deflate. No thank you, she said blankly as she stood up. I hope you two enjoy your date. Conan, I'll see you back at the hotel room. She quickly walked away, leaving Conan and Naruto looking at each other confused. Well, I wasn't going to make it a date, but if you'd like, he held out his arm. Conan, would you do me the honor of accompanying me on a date? Conan snickered and took his arm. What's wrong with Nagato though? Conan frowned. I'm not sure. she said. She has been rather preoccupied the past few days. I'd assumed she was thinking about her confrontation with Danzo, but now I'm not so sure. Naruto shrugged and they agreed to keep an eye on their friend. They were halfway to Ichiraku when a rather upset voice called out, "Naruto!" The pair turned and saw another blonde teen stomping towards them. "What's this I hear about you charging into a base full of heavily armed traitors?" Naruto nervously scratched the back of his head. "Now we know," he said. "To be fair, I teleported into a base full of heavily armed traitors. And I was just running interference. And a lot of them were brainwashed, so they aren't all totally traitors." Ino clearly wasn't amused. "And Tsunade was there." Ino pinched the bridge of her nose. "Naruto, you shouldn't be so reckless," she said. "You know your friends will always be there to help you, right?" Naruto and Konan both smiled at Ino's statement. "Thank you, Ino," he said. "I promise that I won't go charging into danger in the future without making sure my friends know I'm doing it first." Ino couldn't stop herself from laughing. "Fine. But be careful," she said. "Don't forget that you still owe me that second date you promised." Konan perked up at this. "Oh really?" Konan asked. "That didn't take you very long, did it?" Naruto nervously laughed while Ino noticed her for the first time. "Konan, this is Ino Yamanaka," he said. "Ino, this is Konan. She's one of my girlfriends." Konan held out her hand, which Ino shook while blushing. "Well, that's not quite the first impression I wanted to make," she said while looking Konan over. Her cloak left a lot to the imagination, but from what she could see from the open front, Konan easily beat her in the looks department. "It's fine," Konan said. "You were just worried about him. It's sweet. Plus you're rather cute." Ino blushed while Konan laughed. "Relax. While I'm not opposed to it, 3 people to a bed isn't exactly my thing. But we should definitely get to know each other better. How about tomorrow? I'm free all day." Ino nervously nodded and began to walk away. "Later, Ino!" Naruto yelled. "Now about that ramen." With that they resumed walking to Ichiraku. When they arrived they entered and saw Shizen talking to Ayam. "Are you serious?" Ayam asked. Shizen nodded, causing Ayam's mouth to drop. "Really? I mean, I always knew he was a little strange, but are you sure?" "That's what Karen told me," Shizen replied. "She seems to know what she's talking about. Plus it makes sense when you think about it." Ayam nodded in agreement before noticing her favorite customer was back. "Naruto! You're back!" she cheered. "And who's this lovely lady?" Shizen turned and blushed slightly. "Hello, Naruto, Konan," she said. "Are you two on a date?" Ayam looked at Shizen confused before Naruto's answer shocked her. "Yeah, we are," he said as they sat at the counter. "Ayam, this is my girlfriend Konan." Ayam blushed as she shook Konan's hand. Shizen finished her ramen and started to leave. "I suppose I'll see you tomorrow then." Naruto and Konan waved before turning back to Ayam and placing their order. Ayam brought them their ramen and Naruto started telling her about his adventures. Eventually the two left, and were enjoying walking in the moonlight. "So Konan," Naruto said, "shall I escort you back to your hotel room?" Konan frowned and pulled Naruto close. "Naruto, I was really worried about you today," she said. "You and Nagato were fighting that monster, and I was so scared something would happen." She pulled Naruto into a hug and rested her head on his shoulder. "I just don't know what I would do if something happened to you." Naruto began stroking her hair. "Don't worry, Konan," he whispered. "I'll always be here for you. I promise." Konan smiled and kissed his cheek. "I know you will," she said. "Instead of escorting me back to my hotel, perhaps you would do me the honor of escorting me back to your place." Naruto pulled back, slightly surprised. "Really?" he asked. "Not that I'm complaining, but I figured with everything that happened today you'd want to spend some time with Nagato, remembering Yahiko." Konan lowered her head. "Naruto, I spent years wallowing in Yahiko's death," she said. "I know that's not what he would have wanted, but I couldn't stop myself. Our relationship didn't advance because we were in the middle of a war. I want to take advantage of this. We both know what's coming. Please. It's been so long since you left AIM." Naruto placed a finger under her chin and turned her towards him. "As you wish," he said as he kissed her. Across town, another AIM kunoichi was having a far less pleasant night. Nagato stared at the moon through the window while strumming her fingers on the mattress. As she expected, Konan never came back. It was very easy for her to imagine what the two of them were up to. Unfortunately, this was causing her body to react in a way she wanted to avoid. She rubbed her legs together before stopping, as her clothing was another reminder of all she'd lost. Currently she was wearing nothing but a small shirt and a pair of panties. When she had first switched bodies, she had avoided panties, not wanting to feel any more feminine than she already did. However, her curiosity had slowly gotten the best of her, and she soon found herself wearing panties on a regular basis. But in the last few days, thinking about, and being around, Naruto had reminded her that she was supposed to be a boy. A boy currently sleeping in women's panties. Damn it, Naruto, she muttered to herself. She ran a hand over her face before stopping to play with one of her piercings. The piercings she got because of Naruto. Shortly after her accident, Naruto had asked why all the paths had piercings while she didn't. She had explained that those piercings were actually chakra control rods stabbed deep into the bodies she was using. Naruto had offhandedly mentioned it was too bad since he thought her new body would look cute with piercings. She hadn't thought much of it, but a few days later, while her and Conan were getting reacquainted with the people of AIM, they had stopped by the shop where Conan had her piercings done. After a small debate with herself, she had gotten several black studs that resembled the chakra control rods her paths had. At first, she wasn't sure why she had when Conan had made a joke. Maybe you did it to look good for Naruto. At first she had laughed it off, but as time went on she found herself entertaining the idea more and more. She shook her head and fell back. No, she told herself. I do not like Naruto. I like women. She had a crush on Conan for as long as she could remember. When it was clear Conan was in love with Yahiko, she had stepped aside and let them be together. Then Yahiko had died and both of them had sunk into darkness until Naruto had convinced them that they were wrong. At first, Nagato had thought this was an opportunity to finally date Conan. But not only had Conan started dating Naruto, she was sharing Naruto with several other women. Then, to add insult to injury, Naruto turned her into a woman. Now Conan would never be interested in her. Or would she? She once again imagined Conan and Naruto making love in front of her. This time, however, Conan pushed Naruto off and jumped at her. Conan pinned her down and gave her a very seductive smile. Relax, Nagato, Conan said. Let me show you just how good it feels to be a woman. Conan began kissing down her neck before taking her into her mouth. Nagato moaned out loud before she realized she was touching herself. She pulled her hand away and blushed in embarrassment. She rolled onto her stomach and tried to go to sleep. But as soon as she closed her eyes, her imagination took over. This time she was pinning Conan down. Let me return the favor, she whispered as she kissed down her body before coming face to face with Conan. She began eating out her childhood friend before she felt something long and hard rub against her. It slowly pushed into her. Realizing what she was about to do, she pulled her hand away again. She shook her head. She did not like Naruto. She tried to shift to get comfortable, and the pillow underneath her brushed against her groin. She shivered and her mind took over again. She stared down at Naruto's caring blue eyes. Not interested in having Conan join us? He teased. Nagato said nothing. She simply began to rub herself against the pillow underneath her. The feelings she had been bottling up for months were boiling to the surface. Combined with the fact she had never explored her new body, she very quickly reached the climax. But how she reached it mortified her. Naruto! She screamed as she imagined him coming inside her. She spent a few seconds catching her breath before she realized what she'd just done. Damn it! She whispered as she tossed the soiled pillow aside. She walked into the bathroom and turned the shower on as cold as it would go. She pulled off her shirt and underwear before looking at herself in a mirror. She didn't recognize the person staring back at her. She wasn't a teenage girl, she was an adult man. I do not like Naruto, she told herself before she climbed into the shower. She stood in the freeze water, hoping it would snap her out of whatever was wrong with her. But as she shivered in the cold, all she thought was how warm it must be between Naruto and Conan right now. Damn it! Naruto yawned as the morning sun shining through his window woke him up. Feeling something warm curling up against him, he blinking in confusion a few times before last night came rushing back to him. Looking down, he smiled at the blissful look of content on Conan's face. He carefully brushed her hair out of her face before he leaned down and kissed her forehead. Her eyes slowly opened before she smiled at him. Good morning, he said as he continued to stroke her hair. How did you sleep last night? She smiled and leaned up to kiss him. I slept wonderfully, she said. She kissed him a few more times before she noticed the clock and pouted. Looks like we better get going if we don't want to be late. Naruto looked at the clock before he nodded and climbed out of bed. Looks like you're right, he said as he stretched. You can get a few more minutes of sleep if you want. Conan threw off the covers before she also stretched, catching Naruto's eye in the process. No thank you, she said. You know I've never been one for sitting around when there's work to be done. Naruto smiled and moved to the bathroom door. In that case, let me take a shower, he said. Then I'll make us some breakfast, and we can get going. Naruto disappeared into the bathroom, and the sound of the shower turned on. Conan went over to her discarded cloak and pulled out a piece of paper. Grabbing a pen off the table, she wrote down what Naruto had told her over ramen yesterday. With a flick of her wrist, the paper folded itself into a butterfly and flew out the window. Listening to the shower run, Conan grew a grin that would make her teacher proud. Finding something new she wanted to try, she headed to the bathroom to join him. Might as well make his morning fun, since she doubted the rest of his day would be as enjoyable. Naruto and Conan walked down the street with pervy grins on both their faces. While Naruto had been rather surprised when Conan had snuck up on him in the shower, he wasn't about to start complaining. "So was that another one of the new things you wanted to try?" he asked. Conan shrugged as they entered the market. "Not really," she said. "I just thought it would be a fun way to start the morning." The pair shared a Jiraiya-style giggle. "No arguments here," Naruto said. As they passed a group of people, Naruto overheard their whispers. His smile grew bigger, though it was now much less perverted. "Sounds like word of Itachi is starting to spread." Conan listened to what was being said and shared Naruto's smile. "I hope everything works out for him," she said. "Considering how long he has been thought of as a traitor, I imagine that some people within Konoha will have a hard time accepting the truth." Naruto nodded, knowing what that was like. It had taken 13 years, plus taking down a Biju, just for him to get a little respect. "I'm sure everything will work out," he said. After all, Itachi was an Uchiha. They couldn't do anything wrong. There were probably people who, upon hearing that the Uchiha were planning to start a civil war, respected them even more. Idiots. "Hopefully you're right," she replied. "He deserves to have something go right for him for once." As they arrived at the gate, Conan was surprised to see someone she'd never met was talking to the greeting party. "Seems we have a guest this morning." Naruto followed her gaze and saw that beside the obvious Jiraiya and Tsunade, plus Haku and Karen, who were expected due to who was showing up, Kakashi was also there. "Hey Kakashi!" Naruto yelled. "What's up?" Kakashi looked up from his book and smiled at Naruto. He looked at Conan and, after giving her a look over, turned back to Naruto. "You tell me," he said in a teasing tone. "After that mission to Suna you disappeared. Next thing I know you're teaming up with the leaders of other villages and traitors who aren't really traitors to take down the actual traitors. An invitation to the party would have been nice." Naruto laughed and scratched his head. "Sorry about that," he said. "I'm sort of making this up as I go along. Anyways, I wanted you to meet Conan. She's my girlfriend." Kakashi looked surprised for a moment before his smile returned. "Good for you, Naruto. I'm glad you finally found someone to share your life with." Kakashi held out his hand to Conan. "Hello, I'm Kakashi." "Hello, I'm Conan," she said as she shook his hand. "Naruto's told me all about you. And don't worry. I'll take good care of him. I'm great at sharing." She pulled Naruto into a hug and the two shared another pervy giggle. Haku and Karen rolled their eyes, while Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Tsunade tilted their heads in confusion. Before they could ask any questions, Haku spoke up. "Hey look," Haku said nervously. "The group from Kiri is here." He and Karen both paled in fear. Noticing everyone staring at them, he pulling Karen into a hug. "They're scary," he said. Karen quickly nodded in agreement. Jiraiya pulled out his spyglass and focused on the three approaching figures. "Let's just see how scary these guys are," he said. Focusing on the first figure, he was disappointed to see they were wearing a cloak that obscured all their features. The only thing he could tell was that based on their height they were an adult. Looking to the next person, he saw they were wearing the exact same cloak. However, unlike the first person, this person was much shorter, most likely around Naruto's age. They were also carrying a very familiar bandaged blade. Wait, Jiraiya thought. Is Kisame working with them? But the seven swordsmen never parted with their blades easily. Is Kisame dead? I'll have to ask Naruto about this. He turned his attention to the Mizukage, and his jaw hit the floor. What is it, Jiraiya? Tsunade asked. What do you see? Jiraiya made a series of unintelligible gargles. Tsunade sighed and grabbed the spyglass from his hand. What the hell is so interesting? She asked. She looked through the spyglass and her jaw dropped as well. She had always thought of herself as straight, but even she had to admire the beauty approaching. She was practically sex on legs. 2 long slender legs that were barely concealed by her revealing blue dress. She had a bust that could easily rival Tsunade's and long flowing brown hair. Looking up, she revealed a delicate face that somehow still oozed power. This was a woman who wasn't to be messed with. Hello? She said in a voice that sounded as sexy as she looked. I'm Meitarumi, the 5th Mizukage. I understand you've been expecting me? Tsunade quickly recomposed herself. It's a pleasure to meet you, she said. I'm Tsunade, the 5th Hokage. This is my teammate Jiraiya, the famous copycat Kakashi Hatake, and I believe you already know Haku and Karen. And since he's the one who put this all together, you obviously know. Naruto! She cheered as she grabbed him and pulled him into a hug, burying his face in her chest. It's so good to see you again. She then noticed Conan smiling at them. Messy hair, no fresh makeup. You certainly enjoyed yourself last night, didn't you? Conan smiled and nodded. I certainly did, though I don't think this is the best place to go into details, she said. As they talked, the three adults standing off to the side looked more and more confused. Kakashi was about to speak up when his attention was drawn by the shorter figure growling in anger. Stupid Mizukage. They mumbled in a female voice that Kakashi thought sounded vaguely familiar. Ordering us to wait around while she flirts with Naruto. Yeah, that's a real good use of your authority. Well, Kakashi said, hoping to both ease the tension and get some answers. Seems like Naruto's become quite the ladies' man if he has so many girls after him. Shut up, Kakashi, the girl said. Kakashi froze as his eye shot open. Only 2 people called him that, and both of them were dead. What did you just call me? He asked in a shaky voice. The girl leaned towards him as best she could with her short stature. I said shut up, Kakashi, she replied. Right now my boyfriend's other girlfriends are hogging him and I haven't seen him in forever, and it's been a long trip and I'm in a really bad mood. So please shut up. Before she could continue, the other figure put a hand on her shoulder. Really? They asked in another female voice that sounded familiar. After all this time, that's the first thing you say when you meet up with him? The younger girl sighed. I'm sorry, she said. I've just been so stressed out lately. She stepped forward and pulled her hood off, causing Kakashi's heart to freeze. Staring back at him was the face of his supposedly dead teammate, Rin Noira. Hello, Kakashi, she said pleasantly. It's nice to finally see you again. She then flashed him a toothy grin, showing that all her teeth had been sharpened into fine points. Sitting on her forehead was a protector with the symbol for Kiri on it. What the hell? He shouted as he jumped back in fear. His mind filled with images of the nightmares he had suffered after Rin had died. Ones where she proudly claimed she had been working for Kiri all along, and was off to destroy Konoha. Are you okay? She asked nervously. You look like you're about to have a heart attack. She reached out to help him, but he took several steps back and pulled out a kunai. How are you even here? He asked. Did someone use the Edo Tensei on you? He didn't want to fight his former teammate, especially if she was an unkillable zombie. Sort of. She said that's how we got here, but as of right now I am a fully living, breathing human being. But how? Kakashi asked again. Rin smiled and pointed over to Naruto. Her smile faded when she saw Mei still had Naruto's face in her chest. Enough, Mei. Let someone else have a turn, she said as she pulled Naruto away and hugged him. Jiraiya giggled as he wrote in his almost full notebook, while Tsunade pinched her nose in annoyance. This is great, Jiraiya said. Normally when girls fight over a guy it's a lot more violent, and a lot less sexy. Before he could continue, his notebook was snatched away. And just what makes you think they're fighting? Jiraiya stared into the purple eyes framed with red hair he thought he'd never see again. Kushina? He asked with his jaw on the floor. You're telling me Naruto actually did perfect the Edo Tensei? Sure, he'd read Naruto's notes, but he thought Naruto was working on theory, not actually out resurrecting people. I wouldn't say perfect, she replied. There's still a few kinks to be worked out, but you have to admit it's a vast improvement. But still, this is amazing, he said. You have to show me how this is possible. He pulled out his actual research notebook, covered in dust from lack of use. I can show you the seals later, but the details will have to wait until tomorrow's meeting, she said with a little wave. But until then the 3 of us have plans. Speaking of plans, she trailed off and narrowed her eyes at the other redhead trying to sneak away. She shot a chain at Karen, tying her up and dragging her back. And just where do you think you're going? It's so good to see you again, Lady Kushina, Karen said, failing to keep the fear out of her voice. You must be tired after your long trip. So there's no need for training, right? You just want to relax. Kushina grinned in a way that reminded Karen far too much of a certain snake. Oh no, you don't, she said. If what I heard is true, you were barely able to hold off an S-rank Nin. I trained you better than that. I was in the middle of a city. I couldn't just smash everything in my path. She tried to defend. Besides, those monsters of his were way too fast for me. You know what I'm hearing? Kushina asked. You need more training. No time like the present. Let's get training. She began to drag Karen off to the training grounds. No. No. Please no, she begged. No more training. Haku, save me. Everyone turned and looked to see Haku being dragged in the opposite direction in Samahata's jaws. Sorry, Haku, Rin said. But you know the rules. If you want to be seen carrying one of the 7 swords, you need to show the world you can handle it. You didn't even use it in your last fight. Not exactly the image Kiri wants to project. With that, the 2 kunoichi vanished, taking their students with them. Well, it looks like it's just the 2 of us. Mei said, so I guess we can have a little fun. She leaned close and began to run her fingers up Naruto's chest. But first she grabbed Naruto's throat. What's this I hear about you failing to injure Sasori with the lava release techniques I trained you with? I wanted to capture him to prove a theory I had, he said. I underpowered the technique. Clearly I underestimated just how strong his puppet's armor. And it never occurred to you to try all those boil release techniques I showed you? Naruto gulped nervously. Truthfully, in the heat of battle he had forgotten about the boil release he now possessed. And considering the pride Mei had in her abilities, and all the time she had put into training him, she would kill him if she found out. Actually, there's a funny story behind that. Seeing the look on Mei's face, he hung his head in defeat. Yes, I forgot. Mei smiled and ran a hand through his hair. See how good it feels to be honest? She said. I think your honesty deserves a reward. Guess what your reward is? Training? Naruto asked while scratching his head. The smile on Mei's face told him he was spot on. Will you at least be gentle? Oh, Naruto, she laughed. You should know by now I'm not gentle. As he was being dragged away, Naruto asked the question that had been bugging him. How do you know all this? Mei laughed and held up a piece of paper with several notes written on it. Konan was kind enough to share all your stories from Suna. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked at Konan, who was waving at him. Konan, you traitor! He yelled dramatically. How could you do this to me? Mei vanished with Naruto, leaving a laughing Konan, a confused Jiraiya and Kakashi, and an annoyed Tsunade. Well, if you'll excuse me, Konan said. I'm going to spend the day with Ino, to make sure we can get along well enough for Naruto to date her. Konan left, followed by Tsunade. Since I'm not getting any answers until tomorrow, I might as well get started with Hinata's training, she said. Jiraiya and Kakashi turned and stared at each other. Do you have any what just happened? Jiraiya asked. Kakashi shook his head no. I have no idea either, he admitted. After a brief pause, Kakashi spoke up. Want to go see if there's any good-looking women at the hot springs? Jiraiya nodded and the 2 took off in hopes of distracting themselves from what had just happened. Karen screamed and ran as the ground behind her exploded. Kushina's chains whipped and thrashed behind her. Come on! Kushina yelled. How do you expect to fight like an Uzumaki if you just keep running away? Karen ducked as a chain nearly took off her head. Kushina's chains were easily just as fast as Kakuzu's heart monsters. It called a strategic retreat, she yelled back. She whipped a chain to intercept Kushina's, but several others raced forward and ensnared her. A strategic retreat will only get you so far, she said. Keep in mind, the sooner you defeat me, the sooner you can save your boyfriend from the jaws of the shark. Karen's eyes shot open before she screamed and shot her chains at lightning speed towards Kushina. She blocked them and grinned wickedly. There's that Uzumaki fire, she cheered as their chains clashed together. Hurry up. Sharks aren't known for being merciful. Haku jumped out of his ice mirror as Samahata's teeth shattered it to bits. He quickly held up Kubikuribocho and blocked Samahata as it lashed out at him. Rin flashed Haku a fanged grin. Is this what the 7 swordsmen have been reduced to? She asked. A medic from a different village is more skilled with your blades than you are? Haku wiped his forehead. I'm trying, he insisted. It's not like you became an expert overnight. He attempted to form another ice mirror, but Samahata quickly ate it. You're right. I didn't, she responded. But once Samahata chose me to wield it, I dedicated myself to learning everything I could about swords, even though it's not my main field of interest. She rested Samahata on her shoulder as it finished eating Haku's mirror. There's no doubt you've improved since I last saw you. But you're still overly dependent on your bloodline. Instead of using your bloodline to enhance your swordsmanship, you use your sword as a last resort when your bloodline fails. I am not dependent on my bloodline, Haku insisted. He noticed that Rin was copying his stance and making the same hand seals he made for his mirrors. Looking down, he saw that he was making the seals without even realizing it. Lowering his hands, he tightened his grip on Kubikuribocho. I see you're finally getting serious, she said. Now let's get started. They charged and their blades smashed together. Come on, Mei, Naruto begged. Can't we talk about this? He ducked under another glob of lava as Mei slowly approached him. The entire training ground was covered with lava and steam. "You asked me to train you in lava and boil release," she said while smiling sweetly. "If you aren't using them correctly, that just proves your training is incomplete." She took a deep breath and blew a cloud of steam at Naruto. The steam slowly cleared, revealing Naruto was gone. Mei looked around, but saw nothing but flaming debris everywhere. Sensing an attack from behind, she leaned to the left, allowing a lava bullet to fly over her right shoulder, singeing her dress. "Oops," Naruto said. "That dress wasn't expensive, was it?" Mei smiled and ripped the shoulder off her dress, revealing her smooth, unblemished skin. "Don't worry," she said in a tone that scared Naruto. "It's nothing you can't afford to replace." Naruto swore he heard his wallet scream in pain. Grinning, he blew a cloud of steam at her, which quickly began to eat away at her dress. "You know, if you wanted to get naked in front of me, you could have just done it," he said. "There's no need to drag me all the way to the training grounds." He spat lava at her, which she easily blocked with lava of her own. "Don't get too cocky," she said. "You may be the world's strongest genin, but it's still far too soon for you to beat a Kage." The two resumed spitting lava at each other as their fiery dance tore up the training ground. "Are you okay?" Ino asked. "You seem like you're a million miles away." Conan smiled and set down the cup of tea she was drinking. "I apologize," she said. "I know today was supposed to be about the two of us, but I'm really worried about my friend Nagato. The past few days she's been rather moody. Today when I went back to the hotel she was still sleeping. She left out the part where she found Nagato naked and soaking wet in a room that smelled a lot like Naruto's had that morning." "You said Nagato is the leader of AIM, right?" Ino asked. Conan nodded, so Ino presented her theory. "Maybe she's just relaxing before the big meeting tomorrow." Conan laughed at her idea. "While she could probably use it, Nagato isn't a relaxed type of person," she said. "Ever since Naruto came around she's constantly trying to improve AIM. When she can't do that she trains." "So how exactly did you and Naruto hook up?" Ino asked. "He may be unpredictable, but having 4 girlfriends is a little odd, even for him." Conan smiled and sipped her tea. "Well, when Naruto first showed up in AIM, me and Nagato were in a rather bad place. We were actually planning on taking over the world. Or destroying it. Truthfully, I didn't really care one way or the other." Ino's eyes widened at how casually Conan talked about planning on taking over the world. "When Naruto showed up we tried to kill him, but he didn't put up much of a fight. Instead he let himself get captured, then asked us why we were doing what we were. We told him about all the terrible things that had happened to us. He told us all the terrible things that had happened to him. But he never let any of it get to him. He showed us how if we continued down the path we were on we would have destroyed ourselves." Conan wiped a tear from her eye while Ino stared enthralled. "We agreed to try things his way because we could easily go back to our original plans. But with Naruto guiding us, AIM improved by leaps and bounds. Life just got better and better, and soon before I knew it I had fallen in love with him." "Wow," Ino said, amazed that Naruto had already accomplished so much. "That's so sweet," she gushed. "But where do the other girls come in?" "Well, it turns out he was already dating a girl from Kiri," Conan replied. "Rin Noira. She's here for the meeting, so I'll have to introduce you in the next few days. Well, Naruto said he'd date both of us if he could, but he couldn't, so he wasn't going to cheat on Rin. I figured Naruto got where he was by being crazy, so I'd try the same. So I wrote Rin and requested permission to also date Naruto. Obviously she said no, and I wanted Naruto to be happy, so I backed off. But we kept writing each other, and somehow I managed to win her over and she agreed to let me date him. He was skeptical at first, but eventually he went with it. Of course, as soon as Mei found out, she was all over us begging for a chance, and somehow at some point Kushina decided to join in. Still not entirely sure how that happened," she mumbled to herself. Ino now had a thoughtful expression on her face. "Maybe your friend Nagato has been moody because she also wants to date Naruto," Ino suggested. Conan rubbed her chin in thought. "That does seem like the most obvious answer," she said. "But as far as I'm aware, Nagato likes women. At least I think she does. She seemed to be interested in me back when she was a man." She drank her tea, then noticed a look of confusion on Ino's face. "I think you're going to need to start from the beginning for this one." Hinata approached the training grounds, wondering why she'd been called here. She had been trying to think of a way to show Naruto that she did care and did deserve to be with him when an ANBU had approached her and told her to report here immediately. Entering the field, she saw Tsunade doing warm-up stretches. "Hello, Hinata," Tsunade said. "According to Naruto, you have some problems with confidence and have latched onto him to make up for it. He's asked me to train you so you can stand on your own." Hinata blinked in confusion. After everything Naruto had said, why would he ask Tsunade to train her? Was he playing hard to get? Was he leading her on? Maybe he felt bad and was trying to apologize. Or maybe he pitied her and would pretend to like her for her sake? No. Naruto wasn't some scumbag who would pretend to like somebody if he didn't really care. I thank you for this wonderful opportunity, Lady Tsunade, Hinata said with a bow. I'm certain that with your help I'd be able to prove myself to Naruto. She looked up and saw Tsunade's fist flying towards his face. She was barely able to dodge as Tsunade left a huge crater where she had been standing. Let's get one thing straight, Tsunade said as she pulled her fist from the ground. I'm not here to help your love life. I'm here to turn you into a strong and confident kunoichi. If you fail here I won't hesitate to kick you out of the shinobi program. Do I make myself clear? Hinata's eyes widened in shock before she quickly settled into a fighting stance. Perfect, Tsunade said. Let's see use what Kurenai's taught you. Good job, Karen, Kushina said. We finally started increasing your attack speed. Karen weakly gasped while leaning heavily on her knees. Now we just need to work on your stamina. Karen slowly trudged forward and glared up at her. Fuck you, she groaned as she weakly swung her fist. It harmlessly grazed Kushina's stomach as she collapsed and fell asleep. Kushina giggled and picked her up. How cute, she said. She thinks she's ready to take me. Don't worry. We'll get you there. You have a legacy to help uphold after all. With that, Kushina carried Karen back to the hotel while planning the next torturous phase of her training. Good job, Haku, Rin said. You're finally starting to get a hold of your swordsmanship. Haku wiped the sweat from his forehead. Thanks for going easy on me, he said as they shouldered their swords. I don't think Karen will be making it back to our new place tonight. Are you finally found somewhere? Haku nodded and Rin gave him a high five. Good for you. I'm sure it wasn't easy traveling with Naruto. No time to yourselves, plus Karen's libido? That must have driven you crazy. Haku nervously laughed. Well, it doesn't help her libido rubbed off on me, Haku said. Rin laughed, and Haku blushed knowing there was no clean way to say that. I would say take it easy on her tonight, she replied. But I think you were right when you said she won't make it home tonight. Aren't you glad you have a teacher who doesn't torture you? Haku smiled and was about to agree when Rin grabbed his face. Haku, what the hell's wrong with your teeth? Haku squirmed and tried to get away, but Rin's grip held tight. If you want to be in the scene swordsman, you need to look the part. She opened the pouch on her waist, revealing several medical tools. Haku made several grunts that caused Rin to release him. What was that? She asked. Don't you think I should have this done by a professional dentist? He nervously asked. Rin shrugged and held up what looked disturbingly like a hammer and chisel. Relax, she said as she grabbed Haku and pinned him down. I'm a medic. If something goes wrong, I can fix it. Haku tried to protest but stopped when the chisel reached his teeth. The more you squirm, the longer it'll take, she warned. We all had to do it. Besides, knowing Karen, she'll love this. Haku relaxed and opened his mouth wide. Rin rolled her eyes and got to work. Why is everyone I know a pervert? Equals triple X equals. Naruto slowly opened his eyes as he tried to figure out where he was. The last thing he remembered was being enveloped in a cloud of steam when a lava bullet had flown right at his face. Because of the chakra strain from constantly mixing elements, he was barely able to protect himself. Now he was watching the sunrise through the window of what looked like a fancy hotel room while something very warm and soft was pressed into his back. Good morning, handsome, a voice whispered in his ear. It was then that Naruto realized that he was in nothing but his underwear. Rolling over, he saw Mei, dressed in the same manner as he was. Good morning, my shining beauty, he said. Mei smiled and pulled him into the kiss he thought he was receiving yesterday. The kiss grew more heated as Mei rolled on top of him. I'm sorry I let you down, Naruto said suddenly. Mei tilted her head in confusion as Naruto continued. I begged you to train me in lava and boil release, and then I went and ignored everything you taught me and just charged in like I used to when I was younger. You must be disappointed in me. Mei smiled and kissed him again. I'm not disappointed, she said. You're an amazing ninja, but you're still young. You can't expect to do everything perfectly the first time. The fact that you've managed to learn 3 advanced nature releases despite not having any bloodline is a testament to just how much potential you have. Naruto smiled and pulled Mei into a hug. Thanks for the encouragement, Mei, he said. I honestly thought that you were mad at me. They resumed making out before Naruto noticed what time it was. I'm not sure we're going to have enough time to fool around this morning, he said. Mei looked at the clock and smiled. Nonsense, she said happily. We have plenty of time. She began rubbing his hardness through his boxers. Besides, it doesn't feel like you want me to stop, she whispered. She rose above him and turned to face away from him. She sat down, pressing her panty-covered mound against his groin. Naruto groaned, pulling a smile from Mei. See, I told you you'd be interested. Who wouldn't be interested with someone as beautiful as you? He asked as he ran his hands up her legs before grabbing her ass. Seems like someone's missed spending time with his Mizukage. She moaned as she pressed against him harder. Of course I miss you, he replied as he pushed up against her. Not a day went by that I didn't think of your smiling face. She groaned and began grinding against him faster. Well, I suppose I shouldn't hold back then, she said as she leaned forward and began shaking her butt for him. I wonder if the others would get jealous knowing just how much you think of me, she teased. Naruto grinned and smacked her ass. She moaned and pushed back harder. What makes you think I wasn't thinking of them also? He asked as he thrust up into her core. All of you are special to me. I could never choose between you. Mei leaned back and Naruto's hands traveled up her body before grabbing her massive chest. So you were thinking about all of us? She moaned. Were you thinking about doing naughty things with two of us at the same time? Naruto grinned as his trusting became faster.